Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Pick up the pace, bird legs.
Hey, don't talk to Limu like that.
I'm talking to you.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Get a customized quote at libertymutual.com.
Wendy's is dropping the hammer with 2 made-to-order breakfast sandwiches for just $4. So if you've been wronged by pre-made breakfast and their frozen folded eggs and rubbery microwaved bacon, get to Wendy's and get the breakfast you deserve. Like the honey butter chicken biscuit, classic bacon, egg, and cheese, and the classic sausage, egg, and cheese. Choose any 2 of them for just $4. Justice is served. Only at Wendy's. We got you.
Offer valid for limited time only. Price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's. Single item at regular price.
A message from your neighbors and friends at FirstBank. We've been serving residents and businesses of Sea Isle City and the surrounding communities for more than 130 years. Today's challenges, while unique, are another opportunity to show our strength and resilience. Our commitment to you remains strong. Whether it's using our drive-through services, bank by phone, the FirstBank mobile app, or online banking, we're staying strong with you. Be safe and be secure. FirstBank, here for you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
O'Reilly.
Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get up to a $15 gift card after mail-in rebate when you purchase select Superstart batteries. With the power and capacity your vehicle demands, Superstart batteries are designed for lasting performance and consistent starts. Turn the key with confidence with Superstart batteries only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
So you think you have unlimited data?
Recalculating.
Think again. If you have unlimited data on a network you can't trust, your data is limited, and so are you. Set your smartphone free with the unlimited plan from Total Wireless. Get 4 lines with unlimited data on the nation's best network now with 5G, with 100 gigabytes at high speed, then 2G, for just $25 a month per line.
You have arrived at your destination.
Get unlimited and save. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at Walmart. See terms and conditions at totalwireless.com.
We know you're spending a lot of time at home, and maybe that home could use a little TLC. Since going to a home show isn't really a thing right now, 97.3 ESPN FM is bringing the home show to you. Local exhibitors have been setting up in a virtual show featuring the latest products and services for your home. Go to 973ESPN.com to find great articles on home improvement tips and trends. Thanks to our friends at Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys.net, your trusted source for 3 generations.
This season's hottest collection is dropping just in time for lunch. Meat Church's new all-white meat Texas tenders, accessorized with butterfly shrimp. Snag your Texas tenders and shrimp meal for just $5. Church's bringing that down-home flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit. He stumbles. He's down.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
And we are live on a Wednesday. It is the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. What is happening, everybody? Good to have you with us. It is a Wednesday show, which means Paul Hudrick, a little inside the Sixers, coming up at 3:20 after they bounce back win over the Raptors last night. We got you covered on that. You know, it was interesting. I'm glad that game kind of went the way that it did. A loss would have been one of those things where people would have overreacted and we would have got all crazy about the fact that they lost to the Raptors again on the road. By the way, they're playing the games in Tampa, so does that even count? Playing in Tampa in front of nobody? Is that actually losing in Toronto against the Raptors? But that being said, here is that game was eerily similar to the game they played the game before on Sunday night, except for, as Broads and I discussed yesterday on the show, we wanted to see the execution, not a change in the game plan, but just the execution change a little bit, meaning we wanted to see them make shots, and the Sixers were forced to kind of make a little tweak to the lineup because Seth Curry was out last night, and they went with Furkan Korkmaz, who went bananas last night. See, Broads, I think, took the day off today. I texted him last night. He actually texted me and said, hey, you know, I got something that came up today. that I wouldn't be able to be here. And I said, it's Furkan Korkmaz, isn't it? We all know that Broads is a Korkmaz hater, but Korkmaz going bananas last night as he just hit 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And look, we talked about when you have the ability to knock down the 3-point shot, that changes everything. And it was it as simple as just making your threes last night? We talk about it all the time. You know, we hate to just make things so simple. Like, we don't want to be like, just make threes. Make threes, you win. Miss threes, you lose. Sometimes it is that simple. And was that the case last night? I don't want to say that's the whole case. I thought Ben Simmons played outstanding last night. Tobias had a good game. Joel did not have a good game. They had a similar game plan where they try to double Joel. And Joel, did not have this 30-point outing. He didn't have this massive game last night. But Ben Simmons, I thought really, man, you keep watching him and keep watching him and keep watching him. The patience that he shows and all of the stuff that he brings to the table. You see that he was named an all-star last night. He's not just a guy. He's an all-star for the 3rd straight season. And you see why he's an all-star for the 3rd straight season. The guy controls the whole game for the most part. He doesn't, he didn't have this sparkling night shooting. He didn't score 25 points. He was 5 of 11. But what he did, and by the way, he was 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Come on, Ben. I want to see you get to the line more. You're 5 of 6. Let me see you go 8 of 10. Let me see you go 9 of 11. But 15 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. But, man, what I want you guys to do the next time the Sixers play, which is tomorrow night against the Mavericks, it's going to be fun. It's going to be Luka against Ben Simmons. What I want you guys to do is just like, you ever watch a football game and say, hey, I'm going to zone in on, I want to see how the left guard plays. Most people don't do that. But, if you say Isaac Seumalo is a problem on the line, what I might do watching that game is, hey, I'm going to watch Isaac Seumalo for 3 series so I can get a better indication of why he's struggling so much or if he is struggling so much. But what I want you guys to do is watch Ben Simmons play defense, one. And what I want you guys to do is just watch Ben Simmons when there's loose balls. Because Simmons last night, the game is, I don't want to say all but over, but they're winning that game. The guy makes buckets, sprints down the other end of the court. He is just an energizer buddy. He is just such an efficient defensive player. He changes the whole game for what the Sixers do defensively. And as frustrated as we get with him offensively, and we do, believe me, I know you guys do, much more than I do, the one thing that Simmons does is, gosh, he makes everybody else better. It is amazing. Just the difference when he, and it's funny because you might be watching this and you might be saying to yourself, why do teams double him? Heck, sometimes teams triple him. Why do they do it? Why would teams double and triple Ben Simmons? Everyone's like, well, he doesn't finish very well. He's not great in the paint and all this stuff. There's a lot of times where he has a little bunny and he misses it and he's got to get the tip back and put it back. But he routinely has 2 and 3 guys around him. Why? Well, because he's that dangerous. But what he's so good at is he doesn't panic when the second guy comes, and he doesn't panic when that third guy comes. And what he does is he finds you. And yesterday, Tobias Harris, 3 of 4. Danny Green, 3 threes. Korkmaz, 5 of 11 from 3-point range. I mean, you had 17 threes in the game yesterday. 17 threes in the game yesterday. 44%. And guess what? The game was still close. 44% of threes last night. You're not going to lose a lot of games when you hit on 44%. And I know it's like, well, it's not that simple. 44% it is. You hit 44% of your threes, you're probably going to win that game with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and company. The night before, 11 threes they made, 29%. On the flip side, Toronto makes 14 threes, 41%. It's really the difference in the game. They win by 7. They hit 3 more extra threes, 3, 6, 9. They get 9 extra points on threes. You lose the game by 7. There you go. There's your difference in the ball game on Sunday night. And in the game last night, if the Sixers don't hit all those threes, look, if they just miss a couple of those threes, let's say, how many threes did I say they made? 17 threes they make last night in that game. Let me bring up that box score real quick. 17 threes. They end up winning the game by 7. And if in that game they only hit 14 threes, 3, 6, 9, they lose that game. They needed every bit of those 17 three-pointers last night. So here's the big thing. Simmons makes the All-Star game. He deserves it. Okay? I know his numbers don't jump off the page. 15 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, whatever he's getting. Man, it's nice that his peers appreciate him because the fans don't appreciate him enough. Because if you just watch Simmons, just zone in on Simmons and watch what he does, you will be entertained. Now, if you're watching him saying, why isn't he doing this? And why isn't he doing that? You're probably going to pull your hair out. But if you're watching him as a guy who understands the game of basketball and see what he does without the ball, on defense, during the loose ball, and all the things that encompass being a great basketball player, man, is he fun. And he was fun last night. It was underrated, one of his better games last night. Not scoring, but just the way, man, Korkmaz, you see how wide open Korkmaz is? You know why? Because Simmons draws so much attention. See how open Tobias Harris gets? You know why? Because Simmons draws so much attention. Even Shake Milton had 3 threes off the bench last night and was able to really kind of get back into that bench role where he's playing 30 minutes. He gives you 11 points off the bench. They're going to need more from the bench, though. That was the one takeaway from the game last night that, it's not like it's a new takeaway, but that's evident. They need more bench. You can't roll a bench out there. Now, Curry's out, so Korkmaz had to start, but not that Korkmaz being on the bench is like, man, look how deep this bench is. But you're rolling Mike Scott, Dwight Howard, Matisse, Milton, and Isaiah Joe are your 5 off the bench last night. That's not getting you out of the second round. I'll tell you that much right now. They're holding on by a dear thread right now. They're holding on, trying to get that number 1 seed. And look, we're getting to the end of the first half of the season. We're getting to the end of the first half of the season. It ends on Wednesday night against the Jazz. Not tonight, next Wednesday night against the Jazz. Now, today at 3 o'clock, they are going to release the second half of the season schedule. So we'll have that for you right after 3 today. Paul Hudrick at 3:20. We'll get his thoughts on that Sixers win last night and going forward here because Ben Simmons, look, now this comment here is why we need like a fact checker on the show. We need someone who just sits there and does fact checking. Brad is watching on YouTube. What's up, Brad? We appreciate you listening, but your comment is asinine. Pretty sure the only reason Ben is an all-star is because Doc is the coach. Well, Doc doesn't pick the reserves. They are not picked by the coach. Because if that was the case, Brad, Tobias Harris would be on the team. Now, everybody is going crazy as why Tobias Harris didn't make the team. I could care less whether Tobias Harris is an all-star or not, to be honest with you. I'm glad that he's not. I don't need 3 Sixers schlepping down to Atlanta playing in some meaningless all-star game. So I'm a lot happier that Tobias didn't make it. So Blevin said last night that all NBA head coaches, right? It's not just the all-star coach, the coaches, right? All the coaches in the league. He's making it like because Doc is the coach of Team Durant. So he has 1 vote. That's it. Yeah. He didn't get in because Doc's the coach. That's ridiculous. By the way, he deserved to get in. You know why? In the month of February, Ben Simmons, 21 points, 8 assists, shooting 75% from the free throw line in 8 games. He's having a tremendous season. He's in the top 10 in the NBA in rebounds per game, assists per game, defensive rating, and steals. So, no, the fact that Doc Rivers, and Brad, I appreciate you listening. I'm just kidding around. Your comment is asinine, but you're a nice man, I'm sure. But you said, pretty sure the only reason Ben is an all-star because Doc is the coach. Pretty sure you're wrong. Pretty sure. No, I'm not pretty sure. You're 100% wrong. You're not accurate. I'm accurate. Doc Rivers gets 1 vote. The other coaches all get to vote. And again, Tobias Harris would be on the team. Under your premise, Tobias, he has the numbers to get on the team, but you look around, Julius Randle has good enough numbers, no need to bounce him. All those guys, you can make an argument that all these guys could get on, don't need to be on, get on. So there you go. Tom is laughing at Brad. Tom, I'm just kidding because I'm in a good mood today. That's all. Brad's having fun. I'm having fun. Tony is watching on Facebook. Today's casual NBA Sixers fans cannot recognize the special talent that Simmons is and how he affects the game. Good thing Doc Rivers and the rest of the NBA does. All right, Tony, that's a good one to kind of go off of because I think you're right. Today's casual NBA fans, I don't want to clump Sixers fans as not anything different, just NBA fans, people who watch basketball casually. They do not recognize Simmons, how he affects the game, because the game has turned into a three-point barrage. It is a three-point shooting contest every night of the week. It is who can make the most threes. And look, there are times late in games where you need a play, you need a bucket, you need to set up an offense. But most of from the start of the game to the last 4 minutes of an NBA game, it's up and down, shooting threes, who makes the most. And Ben doesn't do that. So the casual fan only says he doesn't shoot, he doesn't make threes. He has to stink. They don't understand what he does for. If you think Tobias Harris should make the All-Star game, he only should make the All-Star game because Ben Simmons is on his team. Why is that? Because Tobias Harris isn't having the year he's having without Ben Simmons doing what he's doing. That's why. Chris Leffers is watching on Facebook. What's up, Christopher Matthew Lefferts? Simmons is still very young, not even close to his prime. It's another great point that we don't bring up enough. The guy's 24 years old. What is Ben Simmons going to look like? Think about this, all right? I'm glad that Chris brought that up. And Chris, what's up, man? Good to see you. Glad you're watching the show. I'm glad you brought this up, though. Ben Simmons is 24 years old, all right? And we get frustrated, and we want him to do X, Y, and Z. Now, I want you to think about this for me. If you can all just think about this. Joel Embiid. How great was Joel Embiid in past seasons? He was tremendous. How great is Joel Embiid this season? It's the best season he's ever had. He's averaging 30 points, 29.8, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. Now think back to Joel Embiid's 24-year-old season. It was 2 years ago. He played 64 games. He had a monster year, by the way. He had a monster year. In that season, Joel Embiid averaged 27.5, 13 rebounds in his age 24 season. Now think of Joel Embiid 2 seasons later, how much better he is at his age 26 season than he is at his age 24 season. And now try to envision and picture where Ben Simmons will be at his age 26 season. Think about Joel Embiid and how good he was at 24, and now look at Joel Embiid at 26. That 2 years makes a huge difference. And Ben Simmons is only 24. Wait till he gets to 26. That is what is awesome for me to think about. 609-403-0973. Text board is lighting up. Dan from EHT, no Curry, get a W. So essentially you think Curry's the problem? I can't agree with that. Another text message. Now this one's a long one. I'll see if I can kind of break it all down for you in small increments here because it's long. But I want to give everybody their voice. Mike, I understand you like Ben Simmons, but you have to understand he's still a liability on offense. Let's stop it right there, okay? He's a liability if you have a pea brain. And I say that in a nice way because I can't understand how anybody can think that and think that they understand the game. He might have a limited offense, but what he does for Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and these other guys is he makes average players good players. He makes good players great players. You are so fixated on Simmons being the liability. But think about what Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Danny Green, all these guys are without Ben Simmons. They're not the same players. So, yes, Simmons has limitations to his offense. But because of him, the others' offense, like a phoenix, they rise. Now, I want to continue the text. He says he might get by and have great offensive games in the regular season, but things change in the playoffs. Okay, let's pause it right there. I feel like one of those guys with the clicker. Pause it. He might get by, and I'm going to put this text message up on the screen so other people can see it because I don't want people to think that I'm not reading the whole thing here. So let me share my screen here so that you guys can kind of check out the text message that I'm talking about here. All right, there we go. So you should all be able to see this so that I don't want to actually, let me get that out of there. So I take the guy's phone number out of there. Sorry. All right. So just to show you that he has a long text message and I'm reading it, all of it. He says he might get by and have great offensive games in the regular season, but things can change in the playoffs. Accurate. 100% accurate. The differences we talked about is the Sixers are more well-equipped in the playoffs this time. And if they're not, we'll find out. They didn't have a Seth Curry. They didn't have a Danny Green. They didn't have a Shake Milton. They had bricklayers. They had Al Horford. They never had, other than J.J. Redick, this team has not had a three-point threat. I think they need another one, but that will, okay, it should be different. He goes on to say, Ben does a lot of great things, but the one thing he doesn't do is an absolute killer. It has been a killer in the past. I don't think it's going to be a killer this time around because they have better talent around Ben Simmons. Now, the text goes on to say, every time Ben and Joel are on the court together, if Ben had a jumper, they would be lethal together, but he doesn't. I still contend you need a point guard with a jump shot. The numbers would suggest otherwise. We said the number yesterday. They have an efficiency rating of like 14.5 when they play together. It's one of the best in the league. When they're not on together, they're in the negatives. This team thrives with those two guys on the court. Why? Because Ben allows Joel to take over. Ben doesn't say, I need to score. I need the ball. Give me the ball. It's not a situation. Look, Brooklyn's playing well, so I'm not ripping them, but it's not like, hey, it's a close game. Who's going to take the shot? Is it going to be Harden? Is it going to be Kyrie? Is it going to be Durant? That's not going to happen. Ben Simmons understands that it is Joel Embiid. But you are right about some of the things you said, but I think some of the things you say go to the team in the past, not the team in the present. 609-403-0973. Matt, All-Star game, a waste of time and effort. The less players that have to travel, the better, especially with COVID. Matt, I'm on the same page with you. I don't need Joel Embiid playing in that game. I don't need Ben Simmons playing in that game, and I don't need Tobias Harris playing in that game. Quite frankly, I'm not watching the game, nor do I care about that game. And quite frankly, I don't think the only reason they're playing the game, and I have the answer. Why are they playing the game? Somebody said to me, Broad said to me yesterday, why are they even playing the game? I got the answer for you. Because if they don't play the game, the NBA takes the check that they got from Turner and says, here you go. So guess what? Get your ass on the court is the message from the NBA. You're playing. Because otherwise, we're turning this check back over to Turner Broadcasting Systems, and we don't feel like doing that. Hence, you're getting an NBA All-Star game. That's why. All right, 609-403-0973. Yeah, great way to put it. Talent comes with work. Yeah, we're talking about where Ben Simmons might be 2 years from now. And look, I'm not writing off the fact that he might add a couple of things. He might not add a jumper, an elbow. You're already seeing his game evolve a little bit. Not a lot. I'm not giving him a lot of credit, but it's about he's got that little hook now. He's definitely a lot more backed up to the basket. He's getting to the free throw line more. Now, Chris brings up a good point here. Watch it on Facebook. You can 100% notice the difference in tempo when Ben is off the court versus on. There's no question. They don't have a point guard. They have nobody that knows what to do, know how to facilitate. No one feels comfortable enough getting deep into the lane and then kicking out. They get into the lane and they kick out so early. Ben gets into the lane and then he patiently holds the ball until the defense comes to him, and then he gets you. Ben affects the game in various ways. Number one in deflections, I believe. Well, defensively, I don't think there's anybody out there that argues about how defensive, what he brings defensively. And if you do, you're not watching the game close enough. And I implore you to, just like I said at the beginning of this segment, watch the game closer. Just zone in on Ben Simmons. Don't watch the whole floor. Watch Ben Simmons. Like I said, when I watch a football game and I say, man, all I've been hearing all week is that the receivers don't get enough separation. What do? You go whack and watch the all 22 and say the people who say that, you can't see that on television. Nobody can watch the game on TV and say the receivers aren't getting separation. You can't see the receivers until the ball is thrown. You watch that all 22 tape, you can see, hey, guess what? That guy's open. This guy's open. This guy's open. Carson Wentz didn't make the throw. That happened a lot this year. Now, much like the NFL, if I want to see, man, how is Fletcher Cox playing? He seems to have lost a step. I want to zone in on him. I'll just watch Fletcher Cox, not even the rest of the play, for 3 series in a row. How's Fletcher playing? How's Fletcher playing? How's Fletcher playing? Oh, he's getting penetration. People are off base on this. Watch Ben Simmons. Just watch him. Follow him around. Watch what he does. Watch his hustle. It's amazing. I don't really think people understand. Tom, Ben has instincts similar to LeBron and Magic. I know he can't shoot. I'm talking about his pass-first mindset and ability to make others better around him. It's an extremely valuable asset. Tom, it's a great point. But people, as Tony brought up here, the casual fan doesn't recognize that. They want threes. They want shots. And your point is his mindset and ability to recognize the others around him is the difference of what makes him different. All right, there we go. We start off with that today here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the show live. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com. A couple text messages coming in. I will get to them. I got audio today on this Carson Wentz stuff that I want to play for you guys out there because it's kind of interesting. Albert Breer explaining an interesting scenario and situation for the Eagles. And I got a lot of Eagles stuff on my mind today. I got Philly stuff on my mind today. Jason Fitz, Paul Hudrick. We go inside the birds at Football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. We'll get his Eagles latest as well. So that's all coming up today. Plus, in the final hour of the show tonight, Jeff Nadeau will jump in and co-host with me here on the Sports Bash from 5 to 6 tonight. Jeff will be my co-host filling in for Broads. Broads had a little bit of a family emergency today, so he'll be back tomorrow and Friday. All right, so that's how we start today. How are you guys feeling? I had a good day so far. Not. This day's been awful, but hopefully this 4-hour journey together will make things a lot better. Brought to you by Matt Black Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia, Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. You ever just been on call after call after call, and after all the calls say, man, I wish I had that hour of my life back? That happened to me 3 consecutive hours today. 3. Not just 1 consecutive hour, 3. So you can imagine, I am enjoying talking to you guys for the next 4 hours. This will be fun. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, powered by FirstBank of Sea Isle.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
On some models excludes Corvette with GMF financing. Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
It's President's Day all month long at Bennett Chevrolet with our biggest, boldest, best deals ever. Saving you up to 25% off MSRP on brand new vehicles. Right now, Bennett Chevy is selling brand new vehicles at GM supplier employee pricing. Plus, you keep all the rebates that can save you as much as 25% off MSRP. But there's even more ways to save with 0% financing available. Plus, if you're looking for pre-owned, Bennett will pay you a minimum $7,000 for your trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for your trade, no matter its condition. Imagine how much more you'll get for a good trade. And once you've dealt with our non-commissioned sales team, you'll rave about the wonderful experience with no need to negotiate and no hassles, because our team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's President's Day all this month at Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
The following is a paid announcement. The advertiser was paid a marketing fee for a digital campaign. Please make sure to review our disclaimer on our report page.
The new year is here, and the time is now to capitalize on the EV stocks boom in the U.S. markets. Text the word trade to 48542.
Here's a great opportunity that we've uncovered in the electronic vehicle space, and it's a great time to explore the massive profit potential of the EV sector with your free subscription to Energy Market today. When you text the word trade to 48542. The world is scrambling for sufficient nickel and lithium supply for the EV industry. We've identified a company that could be well positioned as the EV market drives demand for these materials. According to analysts, total EV sales are expected to grow from approximately 2.5 million units in 2020 to around 11.2 million units in 2025, then reach about 31.1 million vehicles sold worldwide by 2030. Get your free subscription to Energy Market today when you text the word trade to 48542. Text the word trade to 48542.
Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning makes it easy to upgrade to the most energy-efficient equipment. And for a limited time, Broadley's is giving you a free furnace with the purchase of a high-efficiency AC system. 0% financing and rebates from the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities and its clean energy program mean even greater savings. Don't miss out on Broadley's free furnace frenzy. Certain restrictions apply. Call Broadley's at 609-390-3907 or visit broadleys.net, your trusted source for 3 generations.
If you're struggling with a drug or alcohol addiction, now is the time to take action and get professional help. Call Recovery Centers of America at 1-888-RECOVERY today. You are worthy of recovery from your addiction, and calling RCA will be your first step in getting the help you need. Recovery Centers of America answers the phone and admits patients 24/7. And because safety is a top priority, all patients and staff are routinely tested for COVID-19. RCA's expert team of physicians and medical professionals will treat you with compassion and dignity and provide an evidence-based treatment plan that is custom-tailored to your specific needs. Recovery Centers of America at Devon and Lighthouse are local and in-network with insurance providers, so their best-in-class inpatient and outpatient care, offered both in-person and via teletherapy, is affordable and accessible. Make this the year you conquer your addiction. Call today, 1-888-RECOVERY. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
This season's hottest collection is dropping just in time for lunch. Meat Church's new all-white meat Texas tenders, accessorized with butterfly shrimp. Snag your Texas tenders and shrimp meal for just $5. Church's bringing that down-home flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Kendall Auto Plaza offers the area's best car and truck buying experience with 60 years of customer satisfaction and community service. What's on their 100-acre lot? A huge inventory of Ford, Lincoln, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and over 100 quality and certified pre-owned vehicles. Whether you use your car, truck, or SUV for work or play, discover why Kendall customers are so loyal. Kendall Auto Plaza, exit 10 of the Parkway on Stone Harbor Boulevard, or shop from home at KendallAutoplaza.com.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Broads on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And now you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 97.3ESPN.com.
All right, 2:30 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Hit us up on the text board, 609-403-0973. Of course, if you're watching the show live on our website, 97.3ESPN.com, you can get involved on the stream. Many of you are. We appreciate that. Go to our website, 97.3ESPN.com, and check out Kevin McCormick's takeaways from Furkan Korkmaz last night, who had a big game with all the three-pointers, checking in. You guys checking in on the stream. We will continue to conversate throughout the day. Paul, why does Joel Embiid look so out of whack these 2 Toronto games? Well, they're defending him a lot differently, Paul. They are doubling him, sometimes tripling him. Sometimes they are, they're sending guys from different angles. They're sending guys from different spots. Now, they've always done a good job at defending him. You remember they had Gasol in the past, and they've done a really good job of defending him. Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse does a great job at coming up with different schemes. He is a very good schematic coach. I mean, he does a good job in terms of defensive ways to get the ball out of Joel Embiid's hands. He says, his philosophy is Joel Embiid's not going to beat us. And look, Joel had 13 shots last night. He still got to the line 12 times. He finds ways to kind of get there, but I think Mark Jackson said it during the halftime last night. He was 1 for 8 from the field. It wasn't from lack of trying. I mean, he was getting looks. They weren't going down for Joel last night. But you are right, Paul, that I don't want to say he looks out of whack. They were defending him differently than most of the ways that this has gone. This is definitely a way that I think he's going to see more in the future. I think you're going to see more teams defend him like that in the future. You're going to see more teams throw double teams at him from different. That's the way it works. Copycat. Hey, that's what they did. And they went small last night. I think Siakam started the game at center at 6'9". And if you read Jason Blevin's piece at 97.3 ESPN.com, he was there last night. He's in Tampa covering the game for us. And what he did last night, he wrote a whole article about that, about how Ben Simmons kind of changed the game, and he played some center minutes last night, and he was doing some things that really kind of changed the game playing in the center spot. So check that out at 97.3 ESPN.com. All right, a couple other text messages I want to get to. This guy, I told you years ago I only watched Ben Simmons. You said that's no way to watch a game, and now you're telling me to watch Ben Simmons exclusively. I mean after the game. I'm not saying to watch the game. I'm saying after the game is over, I'm like to rewatch the game and just watch Ben Simmons. So yeah, I don't, why I'm watching the game live, I typically are not going to focus just on Ben Simmons, but I might go back and watch just Ben Simmons. Or like I said, with football, I'll go back and watch the all 22 tape and just zone in on one particular guy, because I can't watch the wide receivers on television because you don't get that view. You can't see them get open or not. I have to go to, the next day, or I think it's 2 days later when they put the all 22 tape out. Same with the Sixers. I'll record the game. And then after the game's over, you kind of watch what Ben Simmons does on and off the court. So I agree. It's kind of no way to watch the game because I'm trying to enjoy the game too. I don't want to just be watching the game and working at the same time. I'm trying to enjoy the game, taking notes and doing all that stuff. 609-403-0973 is the text. Hit us up there. And of course, if you're watching the show live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, through our website, 97.3ESPN.com. Now, Paul says he looked really slow. I didn't think he looked slow. I think I think he was anticipating the double team and sometimes the triple team coming his way. You know what I'm saying? I think he was anticipating that, and I don't know, maybe he was just a little off last night. I don't think he looked that way the first night. I think the first night they came after him. They were getting, hey, you get the ball. It was essentially nurses. A and B gets the ball, double him, get the ball. And he was sending the double team from different directions. He's sending the double team from, the perimeter here. If you're watching me on the stream, he's up on the wing here or down on the block. The defender's coming from down here to double. They would send it from this way. They're sending it from the corner. He was getting the double from a lot of different angles. And they know that Joel is not great at passing out of that yet. He's doing a better job, by the way. But I thought another thing in that game last night, if you look closely at that box score, at one of the things that was a big difference maker. And, these type of things don't really stand out. But again, Thibault, he only played 15 minutes last night, but I thought he had like 3 blocks in the game last night. I mean, he comes off the bench and they got to figure out. Now, he hit the 1-3. He was 1 for 5 from 3-point range. But you know what? That's something that when we say, look at that box score a little bit, I like the fact that Matisse took 5 threes last night because it says Doc Rivers is telling him, keep doing it, man. Keep firing away, young man. Because you know what? He has the stroke. It's there. Matisse has the ability. He has that nice form. He doesn't have this clunky form, but at the same time, he's just not a pure shooter right now, but he's got it in him. And I like the fact that they're saying, hey, keep shooting that ball. So he took 5 threes in 15 minutes last night. Good sign for me. Something that I really, when I took a little closer look at the box score last night, that I enjoyed seeing that. Milton, 30 minutes, 6 threes, hits 50% of them. You're not going to shoot 45% from 3 every night. So the question is, if you're not going to hit 45% from 3, What's a game going to look like? Well, it's going to be interesting to see in the second half of the season. How do teams defend Joel Embiid? By the way, how about the block shot last night by Simmons on Powell? He sent Powell crashing into the stanchion last night. And then the three-point shot last night that Joel Embiid hit was a thing of beauty. It's something that shouldn't really be able to happen for a guy. I said, I'm watching the game last night with my girlfriend. I said, this guy is 7'2". And, she kind of looks at me like, what the heck does that even mean? But look at this. Joel Embiid.
Back to Embiid. Embiid, step back three. Shot in the air. He got it. Difficult shot. The big cat, Jamal McGlure, on their sideline. He helps out with the big man. And he was punching his frustration after the shot by JoJo. 9 now for Joel.
Yeah, it was Tom McGinnis last night here on 97.3 ESPN. I mean, and he says it as if it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, the way he does the step back on that three was outrageous. It was unbelievable for a man 7'2" to be able to do what he does. It's crazy. But I'm very intrigued. Now, they have what? They play tomorrow against Dallas, Saturday against Cleveland, Monday against Indianapolis, the Pacers, Indiana, and then Wednesday they play the Jazz, and that's the end of the first half of the season. The second half of the season schedule comes out in about 22 minutes, so we'll have that for you when it comes out. I am intrigued to see in the second half of this year, because everybody now, if they have the Sixers, they're going to say, what did Toronto do to take Embiid out? Because he's scoring 30 points on everybody, going bonkers. What do we need to do? So they're going to get a bunch of guys that are going to start doing stuff similar to what Toronto did, I would imagine. And the Sixers are going to have to figure out, are we going to be a team that's going to shoot, what did they shoot last night? How many threes? 38 threes? By the way, that's probably middle of the pack league-wise. You got teams like Utah, Houston. They all shoot like 45, 46 threes. So Philly is down. They're still one of the worst attempting teams in the league, but you make 17 of them, changes the dynamics. You're not making 45%. That we know. By the way, later on when Paul joins us to talk a little Sixers, we've been talking a lot about trades and who they could go after and all that. I guess the one interesting point about this is Danny Green has to be involved in any major trade. He makes $15 million. So if you're going to bring in a Lowry, like we talked about, Zach LaVine, people keep bringing his name up. Zach LaVine is Danny Green is going to have to be involved in a trade. The question is really, how do you balance? This bench last night was horrid. Scott, Howard, Dybul, Milton, and Joe. It's not good enough. And think about this. If you bring in another player, you're going to have to give up at least 2 of these guys, including Danny Green. Ooh, man, that's a tough balance of, do I want my bench to be so depleted to get a player like Kyle Lowry? Or do I just say, look, let's get a 5. We're not going to go to the bench all that deep. And, let's say, for instance, because you're going to have to trade Danny Green. So he'd be out of the starting lineup. I guess Dybul would go into his spot. That means Dybul's now no longer on your bench. And I would imagine let's say, for instance, you bring in Lowry. He goes to the starting lineup. Curry would go to the bench. So then you'd have Milton and Curry, Howard, Scott, and Korkmaz. Probably not good enough. Do you dangle Maxey? I want to ask Paul Hudrick if he's at the point where he's ready to kind of dangle Maxey out there. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Text board, stream, and, of course, you guys out there. All right, let's get some more of the comments on the stream right now. This is from Dan. Dan's watching on Facebook. What's up, Dan? I want to see his opinion on trade targets. I guess you're talking about my opinion on trade targets. I feel like they need to get another star to push them over the hump, LaVine, Lowry, etc. Oh, okay. I kind of just hit on that, but I put your comment up there because my opinion on the trade targets, it's mixed, Dan. And it's because if I have to get Lowry, is Lowry good enough to put me over the top at the expense of my bench? I think the difference between Philly and Brooklyn is defense right now. Not depth, defense. Brooklyn's defense is terrible. And Philly has the one thing that Brooklyn doesn't do well is they have good defense. So do you want to trade Matisse Thybulle in a deal? Because the way you look at it, it's like, the old Buddy Ryan football teams when the Eagles were trying to beat the Cowboys. They had Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. You went and got, Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. We have to get big corners because they have big receivers. When you were trying to build a team in football to beat the team that wins the division, you're trying to beat the team to say, all right, what do they have? We need to do something to beat them. So they got big receivers. We'll get big corners. Well, the Sixers are saying, what do we have to do to stop Brooklyn? Well, they have 3 scorers. We need 3 defenders. We got Ben Simmons. We got Matisse Thybulle. Do you want to trade away Matisse Thybulle to try to get Kyle Lowry? So, Dan, to answer your question, that's the balance here. And I'd like to hear what you guys think about that. Are you willing to give up a Thybulle? Are you willing to give up a Matisse to get a player like Lowry, who's in his mid-30s? Now, I don't think getting Zach LaVine is going to be as easy as giving up Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle. I think if you're Chicago, you're probably looking for maybe even 2 of those guys. You might say, I want Maxey and Thybulle. Well, here's the problem. Maxey's not playing all that much right now. So I think people are kind of like, give him up. He's not playing all that much. You give away 2 of those pieces, you bring Zach LaVine in, now you're losing Danny Green, you're losing Thybulle. That's 2 players. Now, Green's a little step slow defensively, but still 2 bodies that are in the rotation that are coming out. Now, Zach LaVine's coming in, but now your bench is all full short. And then the question becomes, Ben Simmons, Zach LaVine, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris. Is that more firepower? Because now you're not playing a defensive game against the Nets. Now you're trying to outgun them. So do you keep what you have now and play your defense against their firepower, or do you say, we're going to scrap our defensive plan and we're going to try to fight fire with fire? I think that's where they are right now. Couple comments coming in. Dominic is watching on Facebook. Lowry's a guard to get a bucket when you need it. Make the deal. It's funny how Lowry's the perception of Lowry has changed so much since they won that title, because Lowry was always the guy that came up small, right? He was the guy in Toronto with DeRozan that always came up small. And then, he hit the big bucket for Villanova. But at the end, and I said this all along, I battled with people about this. Lowry, to me, I don't think he's a small player. He just can't be the best player. And when you're the best player, you have the most attention. He's not good enough to have the most attention. He is good enough to be the 3rd guy, 4th guy, and that's what he would be on this team. So, Dominic, I agree with you. I like Lowry. The question is, do I want to change my team's philosophy from a defensive team to a team that wants to go bucket for bucket with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving? I don't know that that's the best way to approach them. Right? Your thoughts, 609-403-0973. Text board's open. All right, we are live. We are just getting started. That hour is flying. And the Sports Patch today is brought to you by Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your local provider who makes it easy to upgrade your home to the most energy-efficient equipment on the market. Plus, learn how to get free furnace during the month of March. Visit them online at broadleys.net. We are live. We're here till 6. We got a lot to do. Jay Fitz coming up at 3. Paul Hudrick inside the Sixers at 3:20. Mosher has football at 4. We hope you'll continue to be a part of the show. Watch it live at 973ESPN.com. And when we come back, I have a Phillies point I want to make off of something we discussed yesterday, and I'll have that for you on the other side. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app powered by FirstBank of Seattle, and watch it live at 97.3ESPN.com.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the New York Rangers tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
This month, let me offer you some presidential advice. Leave your dollar in your wallet when you get 0% APR financing from Matt Blatt Kia.
Matt Black Kia wants to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months on new 2021 Kia Sportage, K5, and Forte models. Or take $4,000 off MSRP on new 2020 Kia Niros in stock. Plus, Matt Black Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township wants your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers for Tier 1 or 2 credit for Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1516 for 1,000 power. 4,000 all 2020 euros with 2,500 Kia Motors factory rebate to dealer. 1,500 Matt Black Kia discount. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 3/4/2021.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
If you're an athlete or live an active lifestyle, aches and pains can be part of the game. That's where Trifecta Therapeutics comes into play. Trifecta Therapeutics is a premier sports rehabilitation physical therapy center located centrally for anyone in South Jersey, right in Glassboro. Their team of the highest skilled docs takes a unique approach to physical therapy and rehab, whether you're a weekend warrior or a finely tuned athlete. They treat the pros and the Joes. To find out more about Trifecta Therapeutics and how they can help you, check out trifectatherapeutics.com.
Chrissy is refinancing her home, so she shopped around for the lowest rate and found it at Amerisave.com, setting her up for a lifetime of savings. It's one decision she'll never regret, unlike wearing tap shoes to a surprise party.
Sorry, guys. Just trying to find the perfect hiding place.
Pretty regrettable, Chrissy. Unlike finding that low mortgage rate at Amerisave.com that's got you on your way to a lifetime of savings. Amerisave's rates won't be this low forever, so go to Amerisave.com now. Lower mortgage rates mean higher savings. Call 866-514-SAVE or visit Amerisave.com/licensing for cost information, terms, and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all states except New York. NMLS number 1168.
Dorothy Roofing. Call 1-877-97-Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Daly, the owner of Dorothy Gale Roofing. Do you have a leak? Do you need a new roof? Give us a call today for honest, wholehearted advice at 1-877-97-Kevin.
Wizard quality comes with DorothyRoofing.com.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel. Language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
If you own a small business, you know how hard it can be to find new customers. Now, Town Square Media has new tools that can help your business stand out and grow. Go to GetLocalCustomersNow.com for a free competitive analysis that will show you what other businesses are doing to find new customers and how you can do it too with Town Square Media. Be one of the first business owners to sign up and receive $500 in free advertising on this station. Start growing your business today. Visit GetLocalCustomersNow.com. That's GetLocalCustomersNow.com.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, 10 minutes to the top of the hour here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I want to tell you about my friends over at PropSwap.com. You know, I love the concept of PropSwap. It is perfect for the NCAA tournament that is coming up. And what I recommend is go get your ticket now for that long shot. When I say long shot, it could be the number 3 team. It could be the number 4 team because everybody thinks Baylor or Gonzaga. So what I'm telling you to do is go get a ticket on Michigan. Go get a ticket on, well, Illinois lost last night, but still, they have a shot to win the national championship. Villanova, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, those teams. Get your ticket for them at whatever odds they are now. If they make that deep run into the tournament, you can go to PropSwap.com, sell that ticket on PropSwap. People will bid on your odds because you bought them now. Let's say you get Michigan now at, say, 8-1. Well, let's say they're in the Final Four. That's going to go up to 3-1, 4-1. You can sell that ticket and watch people bet on it. Make money. Do it now at PropSwap.com, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how it's PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. What's going on? This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And if you're watching the show live at 97.3 ESPN.com, we got a lot of people still jamming us up about I don't say jamming us up. We're having a good time, a good conversation. Chris says, I'm not trading Thibault for Lowry. Lowry's 34. How many years did he have left? Well, that's an interesting dynamic, Chris. You got to measure, do I want to win a championship now? And does Maxey help me win one later? Does he help me win one now? Later? Lowry's, he is like right on the precipice of the guy that you need to get you there. Is he good enough or is he just not good enough? I think he's good enough with Ben Simmons and Embiid and Harris and Lowry. You're pretty good. The question is, what am I giving up to get him? It's going to have to be Thibault. Dominic is listening on, watching on Facebook. Says, trading Thibault and Maxey isn't the worst thing. Don't forget about after trade deadline buyouts. You're a great American, Gill. Thank you, Dominic. I like to view myself as a great American, although I wouldn't put myself on the pedestal of other great Americans. I'm probably below many people who have served the country. That being said, trading Thibault and Maxey isn't the worst thing. You are right, but what am I getting back in return? Is it just Kyle Lowry? I'm giving up Thibault and Maxey for a 34-year-old guy who could walk out the door on me. And then next season I come back and I got no Lowry and I got no Thibault and I got no Maxey. That's the trade-off here. I think you have to, it's like, and you don't have this crystal ball to know whether you get Kyle Lowry and that's enough to win you a championship. Murphy Brown was a television show. They are watching on YouTube. You ever remember the Kramer episode in Seinfeld when he was working for Murphy Brown? He was at the desk. Remember that when he was like out in California when he had to get away from New York and he went out to California and he was on Murphy Brown. He was like her secretary. Murphy Brown's watching on YouTube. Says trade for DeRozan and Lowry. Now that's interesting. I don't think the Spurs. Well, I could be wrong. The Spurs are pretty good this year, by the way. It's a pretty good team, that Spurs team. DeRozan, I believe, is on the last year of that deal. Josh, am I accurate about that? And would they concede we're not a championship team? We're a playoff team. We're not a championship team. But we would take a Maxey in return to get younger, to get that contract expiring. Are they going to bring DeRozan? I love DeRozan. Final year of the deal. Thumbs up, Josh. I love DeRozan. I think if he's not your number one player, like he had to be in Toronto, excellent. Is he a shot maker late? Yeah, he struggled in that role a little bit out there. He's at $27.7 million cap hit. So there you go. All right, we got that. Coming up, I want to get Jason Fitz's comments on this Sixers team moving forward. The NBA playoff, All-Star game. We got plenty of NFL on the way. Football at 4 with Mosh. Hour 1's already in the books. That was one of the fastest hours I think I've ever done. That was fun. Good to have you with us. Nick from Brigantine on the text board. Mike, how are those 3 scores in Brooklyn getting along with only 1 ball? They're doing pretty darn good. The problem is for them so far? They're winning, but they haven't been playing together. They never play on the same night. Somebody's always out. We'll see how they play together. Should be pretty fun. Stick around.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Subin on 97.3 ESPN.
If I take a guy at 6, what am I going to do with that guy? I'm getting ready to give him $35 million.
You got to treat him like Wentz. You got to give him the job.
Got to give him the damn job. Why in the hell would I do that? That's stupid.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Subin. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
It's a new year and an all-new Matt Blatt Nissan. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Help us celebrate when you get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. 2020 Nissan Kicks. $4,000 off MSRP on in-stock units or get 0% APR financing for 60 months on new in-stock Nissan Kicks, Sentra, or Altima models. Plus, Matt Blatt Nissan has fast-track checkout available online at mattblattnissan.com. Our non-touch delivery and electronic paperwork ensures your safety comes first. We want to help with your credit approval today so you can drive a new Nissan with 0% APR financing. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township or online at mattblattnissan.com. Unapproved credit. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. All factory rebates and incentives to dealer. 0% APR financing based on 15/16 per 1,000 borrowed. Offers can't be combined. Call 888-731-5030 for all the details. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
If you're struggling with a drug or alcohol addiction, now is the time to take action and get professional help. Call Recovery Centers of America at 1-888-RECOVERY today. You are worthy of recovery from your addiction, and calling RCA will be your first step in getting the help you need. Recovery Centers of America answers the phone and admits patients 24/7. And because safety is a top priority, all patients and staff are routinely tested for COVID-19. RCA's expert team of physicians and medical professionals will treat you with compassion and dignity and provide an evidence-based treatment plan that is custom-tailored to your specific needs. Recovery Centers of America at Devon and Lighthouse are local and in-network with insurance providers, so they're best-in-class inpatient and outpatient care, offered both in-person and via teletherapy, is affordable and accessible. Make this the year you conquer your addiction. Call today, 1-888-RECOVERY. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in-store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel. Language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
On some models excludes Corvette. With GMF financing. Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
It's President's Day all month long at Bennett Chevrolet with our biggest, boldest, best deals ever. Saving you up to 25% off MSRP on brand new vehicles. Right now, Bennett Chevy is selling brand new vehicles at GM supplier employee pricing. Plus, you keep all the rebates that can save you as much as 25% off MSRP. But there's even more ways to save with 0% financing available. Plus, if you're looking for pre-owned, Bennett will pay you a minimum $7,000 for your trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for your trade, no matter its condition. Imagine how much more you'll get for a good trade. And once you've dealt with our non-commissioned sales team, you'll rave about the wonderful experience with no need to negotiate and no hassles. Because our team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's President's Day all this month at Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
The radio home of the 76ers.
Into the lane, reverse windmill jam. Are you kidding me?
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ-HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, hour two of the Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Watch the show live at 973ESPN.com. It's easy to do. Just go to our website. You'll see the tab that says Watch the Sports Bash Live, and then you'll see the live video of the show right there. Coming up at 3:20 today, Paul Hudrick inside the Sixers. We will get into what happened in the game last night, the All-Star game, trade scenarios, and more. For more on the Sixers, go to 973ESPN.com. I'm going to flip gears over to some Eagles stuff here in just a second as we take a look at, this whole story we know that is going on with Wentz, and now he's out the door. But we're starting to find out new information, more information. I should say more information, not necessarily new information. But Albert Breer was the one who reported at MMQB about the divorce between the Eagles and Wentz and what kind of happened there. And one thing is that he mentioned something here that we've talked about the last couple of days. I do not want to see this happen. But Albert Breer chronicles what the Eagles' plan is now without Wentz, and that the 6th overall pick could help them fix this whole mess. And I don't agree with him.
Yeah, the 6th overall pick. So maybe Jalen Hurts is the answer, but having the 6th overall pick allows you to sort of take multiple swings, and over the next few months, you can hold Justin Fields up against Jalen Hurts. You can hold Zach Wilson up against Jalen Hurts. You can hold Trey Lance up against Jalen Hurts. You've got a chance now to draft another one. And if you do that, now all of a sudden you're taking 2 shots at getting the quarterback position right.
Okay. I don't want to do that. I had talked about this a couple of years ago, and I disagreed with the Eagles going to get Carson Wentz. Not because I didn't like Wentz. It was because of the notion of this eternal search for a quarterback. This quarterback, this messiah, it just doesn't exist. The franchise quarterback, it's like an anomaly. And yet teams just keep going after him. Greeny today brought up the stat. I don't know where I wish I had it in front of me, but he brought up the fact that all of these quarterbacks that have been drafted in the first round in the last X amount of years, none of them are with their team anymore. None. Drafting the quarterback, as he mentions, is the ultimate crapshoot in sports. And you can go back through the first-round picks. I guess Mahomes is still with his team, right? So if you go back to the 2019 NFL draft, what year was Mahomes? Mahomes was drafted the year it was in Philly. So that group of guys there. You got Kyler Murray. So Kyler Murray is still there. Josh Allen is still there. Those guys are still with the teams that drafted them. So I want to get the stat that he brought up. What time frame was he talking about of these quarterbacks that are no longer with their teams, these first-round picks? Because obviously these 2010 to 2016. Okay, so that group of guys are no longer with the team. Okay, yeah, because that's the year that Wentz was drafted. So that group of guys, Wentz, Goff, none of those guys are still with their team. And if you go back, you got those 2 guys that were drafted. They were the only 2 quarterbacks I believed in the first round in the 2016 draft. You had Goff, Wentz, and then after that, Paxton Lynch was also a first-round pick. Those guys are all no longer with the team anymore. 2015, go back to that draft. Winston, no longer. Mariota, no longer. That was a bad draft class. I remember that year. They were the only 2 guys. They got drafted in the first 2 rounds, and nobody else in that draft class. So that's 5 quarterbacks in 2 years, none of them with their team. Go to the next draft. Blake Bortles, 6. Johnny Manziel, 7. Teddy Bridgewater, 8. Derek Carr was drafted in the 2nd round, and he's still with his team, but 8 first-round picks, none of them with the team that drafted him. Go back to next year. E.J. Manuel, out of the league. Man, he wasn't in the league very long. God, did he stink. He was the only quarterback taken in the first round that season. E.J. Manuel. And that year, my guys, look at all the Pro Bowlers Eric Fisher, Lane Johnson, Zeke Ansah, Sheldon Richardson, Eric Reed, Kyle Long, Eifert, Trufant, Xavier Rhodes, DeAndre Hopkins, Cordell Patterson, Travis Frederick. They all made the Pro Bowl. Zach Ertz, Darius Slay. You know, Ertz and Slay were drafted a pick apart. How about that? One was 35, the other was 36. Did not know that. Can you imagine, though, you took E.J. Manuel. You're the Bills. You took E.J. Manuel at 16. You're the only team that took a quarterback in that draft. 3 picks in a row after you. 4 picks right after you. Eric Reed, Kyle Long, Tyler Eifert, Desmond Trufant all went to the Pro Bowl. And you got stuck with Manuel. That was a good draft class. I remember that year vividly because that was the year the Eagles had Johnson at 4. And people wanted them to take who's the quarterback? Tannehill, right? Tannehill got picked in that draft, right? Wasn't he in that draft, Tannehill? Geno Smith was the quarterback in that draft that everybody was kind of intrigued by. What year was Tannehill drafted? Mike Glennon was a 3rd-round pick in that. What year was Tannehill drafted? Because I remember the Eagles having a high pick, and we were kind of debating about, because he was a wide receiver, and we were talking about how athletic he was, and Chip Kelly. It might have been the year, 14. It might have been the next year. Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III. They were the top 2 picks in the draft in 2014. 2012 Tannehill. Okay, so yeah, it's this draft right here. And the Eagles had 12. Okay, they took Fletcher Cox. And we were talking okay, at 12, could Tannehill be there? Would you take him? I remember that now. It was Luck, Griffin, Tannehill. They were 3 quarterbacks drafted. None of them were with the same team. So the idea that Breer throws out there is that they can go and fix this and get it right. Give the guy that you drafted in the 2nd round a year ago, give him a shot. Let him see if he can play. Let's find that out. Okay? And if he can't play, guess what? The lucky part is you get to be right back in the same position again next year then. Just see if he can play. That's all. Albert Breer brought up another interesting scenario here, and it's about the return that the Eagles got for Carson Wentz.
Going forward, they're in an okay situation to build the team again. And the reason why, eat the picks, that helps. I think the fact that this could wind up being a 1 and a 3, that's a good return based on the tape that Carson Wentz put out there last year. Even a 2 and a 3 would be a good return. There weren't a lot of teams that were hanging around willing to offer that much for him to begin with. So I think you get a decent return for him.
Not a lot of teams that were hanging around for him. I got news for you. It was 1. It was 1. They had 1 team, and they somehow got that team to give you a 1st-round pick. And he just said there, it's most likely going to be a 1st-round. Look, if it's not a 1st-round pick, that means Wentz stinks. Right? That's what it comes down to. If the Eagles don't get a 1st-round pick back in return for Carson Wentz, it's because Wentz stinks or he got hurt. Caveat. Maybe he got hurt. That's a possibility that he got hurt and he doesn't play 75% of the snaps. But the fact is, if he gets benched because he doesn't play well and get to 75% of the snaps, that's another scenario. And that means he didn't play well. And if that's the case, and you got a 2nd and a 3rd for a guy who got benched, as Albert Breer chronicles here, this is his last chance. That means you would have traded a guy who would be out of the league for a 2nd and a 3rd.
The league told us what they thought of him with the lack of interest that was out there. Really, I think this is the last chance that Carson Wentz is going to have for a team to truly build around him.
The league told us what they thought of him. The league told us what they thought of Carson Wentz. Nobody called. He was available, and nobody called. And it's why I don't agree with this notion of drafting a quarterback with the 6th pick. Don't forget your boy Geno Smith. He was taken in the 2nd round, no longer with his team. The Bills traded up to get E.J. Manuel and gave away picks to get him. Yeah, Geno was not very good. He was the best. He was supposedly the best quarterback in that draft. Now, he got stuck in a terrible situation, with the Jets. But that was a terrible quarterback class, for Geno Smith to be the number one quarterback. Remember, he was going from like the number one pick to a first pick of the second round. I think he ended up going. No, Smith couldn't play. Not in the NFL. He was a hell of a quarterback in college. E.J. Manuel stunk out loud. But this notion of taking a quarterback at number 6 and just, hey, it's not like the NBA. People criticize Hinkie because, he missed on so many picks. He told you he was going to miss on picks. The whole purpose of it was, let me get more picks because I need to find one guy. I need to find one MVP player out of all these picks. I need to find one MVP. Mission accomplished. Joel Embiid is mission accomplished. That's a win. You draft Joel Embiid with all those picks, you win. Process success. Ben Simmons is icing on the cake. Fine. The other guys you missed on. The point of it was, and it's essentially what Albert Breer's saying here, and I don't agree with it for football, by the way. You don't just keep drafting quarterbacks. Hey, let's just draft 9 quarterbacks in a row until we find the one that actually works. You had one. You had it for 5 years. You fell out of favor. You drafted one last year. Let's see if that guy can handle the situation before you start drafting another one. Different from the NBA where you need to find one guy. Now, I know you need to find one quarterback, but history suggests you're not hitting on that guy. Not at number 6. You want to tell me you're trading up to number 1 to take Trevor Lawrence? All right. You changed my mind. You telling me you're sticking at number 6 to take Trey Lance? I'll pass. I think I'll pass. 609-403-0973. Text messages continuing. We'll kind of get those fired back up. The stream messages as well. By the way, the Sixers have announced the second half schedule. I got it here for you. A couple quick breakdowns for you. And the reason I bring this up is because apparently fans are going to be allowed back in the Wells Fargo Center, or the center as it's called for the Sixers. So you might get to go to one of these games. And their schedule is out. They will play 9 games on national TV. And let's see. The second half of the schedule, it will resume on March 11th at 8 o'clock against Zach LaVine and the Chicago Bulls. Thursday night, March 11th, 8 o'clock. They play the Lakers in L.A. at 10 o'clock Eastern on TNT. And they will also play 4 more times on NBA TV. They have 36 games, 17 at home, 19 on the road. The NBA has scheduled these series of games again. They will play consecutive road games at Milwaukee on Thursday, April 22nd, and Saturday, April 24th. Each game will be shown nationally. So they got, we'll get the schedule, the details for you. I know McCormick's working on that for 97.3 ESPN.com. Oh, here we go. Here's the actual schedule. So the second half of the schedule starts on the 11th. So they'll play the 11th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 17th. They're busy right out of the gates there. And they're going to close up the season with a double disco against Orlando on Friday, May 14th and Sunday, May 16th. So there you go. All right, we'll have the details of the schedule up at 97.3 ESPN.com. McCormick's working on that. When we come back, Paul Hudrick will join us to talk a little bit more. Inside the Sixers is coming up next with Paul Hudrick from 97.3 ESPN.com. When it comes to the Sixers, he's one of the best. So make sure you stick around and hear what he has to say. It's brought to you by AmeriSave Mortgage. Lower mortgage rates means more savings. Find out more at AmeriSave.com. All right, we're back with more Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and watch the show live at 97.3 ESPN.com.
There's never an off season for the NFL. It's football at 4, every day at 4 p.m. on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
It's a new year and an all-new Matt Blatt Nissan. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Help us celebrate when you get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. 2020 Nissan Kicks. $4,000 off MSRP on in-stock units or get 0% APR financing for 60 months on new in-stock Nissan Kicks, Sentra, or Ultima models. Plus, Matt Blatt Nissan has fast-track checkout available online at mattblattnissan.com. Our non-touch delivery and electronic paperwork ensures your safety comes first. We want to help with your credit approval today so you can drive a new Nissan with 0% APR financing. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township or online at mattblattnissan.com. Unapproved credit. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. All factory rebates and incentives to dealer. 0% APR financing based on 1516 for 1,000 borrowed. Offers can't be combined. Call 888-731-5030 for all the details. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Chrissy is refinancing her home, so she shopped around for the lowest rate and found it at Amerisave.com, setting her up for a lifetime of savings. It's one decision she'll never regret, unlike wearing tap shoes to a surprise party.
Sorry, guys. Just trying to find the perfect hiding place.
Pretty regrettable, Chrissy. Unlike finding that low mortgage rate at Amerisave.com that's got you on your way to a lifetime of savings. Amerisave's rates won't be this low forever, so go to Amerisave.com now. Lower mortgage rates mean higher savings. Call 866-514-SAVE or visit Amerisave.com/licensing for cost information, terms, and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all states except New York. NMLS number 1168.
If I'm not commuting anymore, where do I really want to live?
While you handle life's questions, Merrill Guided Investing helps you manage your portfolio and invest for your next move with the option to work with an advisor at a low cost and minimum. Merrill, a Bank of America company. Visit merrilledge.com/investing goals to get started today.
Investing involves risk. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner & Smith Incorporated, both a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member SIPC. Investment products are not FDIC insured or not bank guaranteed and may lose value.
So you think you have unlimited data?
Recalculating.
Think again. If you have unlimited data on a network you can't trust, your data is limited, and so are you. Set your smartphone free with the unlimited plans from Total Wireless. Get 4 lines with unlimited data on the nation's best network now with 5G, with 100 gigabytes at high speed, then 2G for just $25 a month per line.
You have arrived at your destination.
Get unlimited and save. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at Walmart. See terms and conditions at totalwireless.com.
If you own a small business, you know how hard it can be to find new customers. Now, Town Square Media has new tools that can help your business stand out and grow. Go to GetLocalCustomersNow.com for a free competitive analysis that will show you what other businesses are doing to find new customers and how you can do it too with Town Square Media. Be one of the first business owners to sign up and receive $500 in free advertising on this station. Start growing your business today. Visit GetLocalCustomersNow.com. That's GetLocalCustomersNow.com.
Text us to receive up to 5 marketing texts sent via automated technology to your number. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply. Membership automatically renews. Cancel anytime.
Hi, you ever heard of Beachbody On Demand? Hold on a second. Here is your free membership. I'm Carl Deichler, the CEO of Beachbody, and I just sent a free membership to another customer. And I'm giving away 10,000 free memberships a week to anyone who texts me right now to try our new Beachbody On Demand fitness and nutrition app. Just text the word JOIN to 303030 to get instant access to all $8,000 of our best-selling fitness programs like 21 Day Fix, Insanity, P90X, T25, and PIO. These programs really work, and this is your one chance to try them for free. Just text the word JOIN to 303030. That's JOIN to 303030 right now, and I'll send you your own free membership.
The average 30-second radio ad has about 75 words of salesy messaging. Nobody's got time for that many salesy words. Let's do ourselves a favor and see if we can keep it under 10. Okay, count it out. Acura, President's Day, event. Going on now. Attractive offers. One word to spare. Look at that. Acura. Less talk, more drive.
For attractive offers on the entire Acura lineup, visit your Delaware Valley Acura dealer today.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, welcome back. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Don't forget, you can watch the show live at 97.3ESPN.com. Paul Hudrick is here for Inside the Sixers. the second half schedule just came out, and we will touch on that because there's a stretch in there where they're going to be on the road for about 8 weeks, it seems like. We'll get the latest from Paul from last night, get his take on that. And, of course, the Sports Bash this hour is brought to you by our friends over at Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan is now open. Black Horse Bike EHG next to Home Depot online. MattBlattNissan.com. All right, Paul Hudrick is in the house as the Sixers finally end that losing streak. Now, let me ask you, it's a game at Tampa against Toronto. Does it really count as snapping the losing streak?
Well, Raptors fans do not want you to think that is the case. They want to keep that streak alive. I mean, come on. They beat them in Toronto in the playoffs. I mean, come on. Like, let's all just – they beat Toronto. They beat the Raptors on the road. It's not the Sixers' home. They're on the road. I count it. Count it.
There we go. Well, what was different about that game last night? I mean, did you see an adjustment? What was something that kind of stood out? Or was it just simply no adjustment? They did what they did. Sixers execute. I mean, they had 45% from three.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is and they, to their credit, that is what they said. They said, listen, Tobias Harris said, we will take those looks every single night. And they made good on that, including him. They shot the ball much, much better. I would say, as far as like maybe strategy, maybe not strategy, but defensively, I thought they upped it a notch compared to Sunday. I thought they weren't bad on Sunday, but I thought they were excellent last night. Individually, I thought guys really did a really good job of, not allowing much dribble penetration. Most of Toronto's points, I felt like, came off the Sixers turnovers and them getting points in transition. I felt that's where they got hurt the most. But I thought defensively overall in the night, they were excellent. And of course, yeah, just making your good looks helps. Korkmaz got really hot early. That was a huge boost. They needed that. Shake Milton hit a couple of huge shots late, as did Tobias Harris. So I think I don't necessarily see anything strategically. I just think they hit shots and they played just better defense.
Yeah, you made 17 threes and you hit 45%. You're going to win most of your games. I hate when it sounds that simple sometimes, Paul, but that's what the game's become. Who shoots more threes, who makes more threes, and then late in the game, if the game's close, there might be a possession that comes in play. But really, I looked at the game Sunday night. That, the Sixers couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. If they win by 7, Toronto does. If they miss 3 threes, you win that game. Last night, the Sixers don't make 17. They only make 14, and Toronto wins. And I know it's like, well, they did make the 3, but the difference is, Philly shot 45%. Because if they don't shoot 45% last night, they lose that game.
Well, defense matters too, because I think Toronto only shot the ball in general like around 40%. The Sixers weren't much better from the field overall, but they hit threes. They hit open looks. But I would say the Sixers did a really good job. Like, they didn't let Chris Boucher take 5 of them and make them. I think Ben Simmons actually blocked one late in the game. Finally, they got a hand in his face. So, I mean, it's just the little things that you're right. It's little things that can swing a game. And one of those things is 3-point shooting. So the Sixers, again, they capitalized when Shake Milton had a couple open looks towards the end of the game. He hit them. When Ben Simmons makes that incredible pass out to Tobias Harris, top of the key, they hit him. And I think one thing we're kind of losing sight of, and listen, it was an ugly game. There's no sugarcoating. It was an ugly game. It was not fun to watch, but Sixers kind of led wire to wire. I mean, I think the Raptors led it 8-7. And from there on out, the Sixers had almost a double-digit lead through most of the game. At the end, it gets weird and sloppy because Toronto starts committing fouls and pressing. Danny Green makes a really, really inadvisable cross-court pass and kind of keeps the game alive. But overall, I thought the Sixers really controlled that game. And again, on the defensive end of the floor, yes, hitting shots was huge, but the defensive end of the floor is where I thought they really took that game over and really won that game.
I want you to comment on Paul's comment. He's watching on YouTube. He says, why does Joel Embiid look so out of whack these 2 Toronto games? Are we concerned that this could be, it's a copycat? Hey, look what they're doing. Let's start to do this. Are we going to see more teams throwing the house at Joel?
Well, first of all, yes. I think any decent NBA coach will just do that strategy of let's just take the ball out of Joel Embiid's hands and make literally anybody else beat us. But here's the thing. Toronto's been doing this. Nick Nurse has been deploying this strategy, and it has worked very well. The rest of the NBA's seen it, and they haven't been able to do it. So it's not just, yes, a ton of credit goes to Nick Nurse for the scheme and for, again, for making that the strategy of let's take the ball out of his hands. But I would say, first of all, that it's it's a copycat league, but you have to have the personnel and you have to have the discipline to be able to do it. And no other team has, at least not to the degree that Toronto has over the years. And then secondly, I'd say, again, for most of that game, the Sixers were up pretty comfortably. So yes, the strategy worked because Joel Embiid didn't play well offensively, I should say, didn't shoot the ball particularly well. But the Sixers were in control for most of that game. So yes, they took Joel Embiid away, but the rest of the team still won the game. So it's a matter of, yes, I do expect teams to continue to do this, but it's going to be up to Tobias Harris. It's going to be up to Ben Simmons. Those guys are going to have to hit shots. They're going to have to create offense. And with that said, I think one thing I think that game does expose, and what these two games Toronto does expose, is still a need for another shot creator. I still think they need that, and that those two games in Tampa really showed you that that's what they need.
And look, we'll get to that in just a second. I want to get to Tony's comment. He says casual fans, they don't recognize Simmons and how he affects the game. I thought last night he had a terrific game. His numbers weren't like 25, he did a lot of the other things, but 15. But man, it's just the extra patience that he shows. He gives Tobias these extra looks. Korkmaz, my God, early in the game, he's wide open. And I don't think people watch the game thinking that a lot of that is predicated on Ben's patience.
And listen, I think it's a matter of, and this is how I've always looked at Ben Simmons, and he's said something to this regard, and so has Elton Brand when we talked to him in years past. Ben Simmons is always looking for the best play. Whatever play that is, he's looking for the best play for the offense. Now, he knew Toronto's strategy the other night, get the ball out of Joel Embiid's hands, so he knows, okay, we got to find shooters. I got to find guys who are open. He found Korkmaz. Korkmaz was hot. Keep getting the ball to Korkmaz. Late in the game, he, like you said, he finds Tobias for that big shot. I think what Ben Simmons does, and I think what makes him great, what makes him special, is that he just has a feel for what his team needs. Like in the Utah game, of course, I'm sure he didn't go in thinking I'm going to score 42 points, but he knew, hey, Joel Embiid is out. I need to pick up the scoring slack, and I need to make that happen. And I think, in general, I think he's always been like that, where he's always looked for the high percentage play, always looked for the best play for the team. I think recently he started to realize that sometimes that the best play is for him to score. And I think that is what has is kind of added an extra element. And I think that is what has made him extra dangerous recently, and what's made the Sixers better. Now, defensively, I thought that's, again, you talk about the defense, I thought that's where he was tremendous last night, really controlled the game. He's guarding Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam.
Late, too.
Yeah, exactly. And like both guys. And like there were plays. Think about how good Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were defensively. They were switching on Pascal Siakam. Think about how nuts that is and how many teams can do that, where your center and your point guard are switching on the same player and you feel comfortable with that matchup. It's crazy how good both of those guys are defensively. And for Ben Simmons, like I really I'm going to push the campaign for him. I think he should be, like, at least through these, 30 plus games, he should be the defensive player of the year. He has been that good.
Yeah. Last night I said, if you just zoned in and watched him, ball's coming off, he's running from the backcourt back into the front court, tipping the ball to keep it alive. He's making a bucket, or he gives a little dish to Tobias. Tobias makes it, and then he's sprinting back the other way. It's just like these little energy things that he is just added, that have stuck out for whatever reason. They have stuck out more this year. Dan says, I think the window is now for this Sixers team. How much longer will Embiid play at this level? So this kind of gets into your conversation. I think it's a good one to have with you, Paul. Says, I feel like they need to do whatever it takes to land another star. Levine, Lowry, etc. What do you guys think? Now, obviously, the trade-off is, as we mentioned, you bring in Lowry, you're going to lose probably 2 to 3 players. So if you are a team right now that can maybe beat Brooklyn because your defense, or you bring in a player like Lowry, do you think you can outscore them if you go that route? Or do you stay with what you have and say, let's see if our defense can hold you down? Or do we try to say, less defense, but we'll go fire with fire? I don't know which one's a better method, but I don't know that trying to outscore Durant, Harden, and Irving is the way I'm going.
Right. And they still have to listen, even if you don't have the firepower they have to stop you defensively. So that's the issue that they're going to have. And like, they don't, DeAndre Jordan is not the guy he was in LA. He's not that same player anymore. He can still play, but he's not that guy anymore. He's not like a defensive player of the year type player anymore. Doesn't protect the rim at that level quite to the degree which he did. And I think it's not as black and white either as to say like either get Lowry or don't do it. Like even if they don't swing big and get like a Kyle Lowry or somebody of that ilk, that doesn't mean they can't improve in a significant way. If you get, and I wrote that in the recent article I wrote, is that this team is not going to look like it does now. It's going to be different. They're not going to have the same look after the trade deadline going into the playoffs. It's just not going to be the case. And let's say in a perfect world, they get a George Hill from Oklahoma City. They get a PJ Tucker from Houston. And then a couple months later, not a couple months, but a little bit when the buyouts start happening and JJ Redick hits the buyout market, you bring JJ Redick in. All of a sudden, you have Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, George Hill, PJ Tucker, JJ Redick. And listen, it's not about you're not going to play all those guys, but when you get into a playoff series, let's say you're not shooting the ball well. Okay, let's go to JJ Redick. Hey, this guy's really killing us offensively. Okay, let's go to Matisse Thybulle. You can mix and match these pieces, or Dwight Howard's in an unfavorable matchup. Okay, well, let's put PJ Tucker at the 5 and let him go against more of a stretch 5. I think that versatility and Doc having those pieces to work with to match up better can help. Or maybe you mess around, you get you mix, you get a couple bench guys. Maybe you elevate Shake Milton to the starting lineup to add a ball handler. You bring Danny Green off the bench. There are other ways. I don't think I agree with the sentiment of Joel Embiid is having an MVP type season. Ben Simmons is playing the best basketball of his career, and you could argue so is Tobias Harris. So with all of that happening, I think you could make the argument, go all in on Lowry or somebody of that ilk. But I also think that you can get really good bench pieces and still elevate this team to a really high level.
Well, and that's Chris says, I think the Sixers are perfectly fine the way they are now. When everyone's healthy and playing at their best, no one in the East will beat them. And I think what you're saying is, or maybe his comment is, with what you have and just tinkering a little bit, like last night, that bench was short. You had Scott, Joe, Howard, who am I forgetting that played off the bench last night? Milton and Thybulle. I mean, he played 15 minutes. So that's pretty short to go with those 5. Now, you had to put Korkmaz in the starting lineup, but I don't think you're excited about, well, they lost Korkmaz off the bench. Like, he's a guy that people want out of there anyway. So just not having Curry last night, all right, Korkmaz went in. Your bench was, I don't know that you're winning a 7-game series with that bench.
I mean, it's a tricky question because at the same time, in a playoff series, Joel Embiid's playing 40-plus minutes. Ben Simmons is playing for, Tobias Harris. They're all going to be playing big minutes. So in that regard, the bench isn't going to hurt you as much. You have, again, I think Shake Milton is a viable bench basketball player in the NBA. I think a pretty good one, especially when his shot's falling, which you saw it fall last night. And historically, he's been a very good shooter. It was down a little bit before he got hurt. He's come back and looked like he's kind of maybe, if I've noticed he's maybe got a little bit more arc on his shot, which is a subtle thing, but I think that he's got like a little more legs underneath of him. I think Matisse Thybulle, from a defensive standpoint, is absolutely a NBA playoff player because of, again, when you're struggling when a particular wing or guard is hurting you, to be able to go to a guy like that can lock somebody down is huge. And then Dwight Howard, listen, stretch 5s are going to hurt him in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. They're going to have to remedy that, I think, in some way. But when you have maybe like a more plotting big guy, or like the Nets, if you're a DeAndre Jordan, when you're going up against them, Dwight Howard's a good guy to have, so that he's competing on the offensive boards and making sure the other team's not killing you on the offensive board. So I think they have some playoff pieces, but I do think, again, a shot creator would be big, some type of point guard ball handler to help out, and then some type of stretch 5. I think those are the 2 biggest needs. And again, it's not because you want to play all of those guys. It's because you want to be able to mix and match. You want to be able to match up with other teams in the playoffs, because that's the name of the game. Yeah. In a series, you have to play that chess match and match up.
All right. I know this might sound like preposterous, but would you have any interest in Boogie Cousins as a backup stretch 4 for Tobias to play 12 minutes?
Not really.
No.
just because he can't move anymore.
It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, and listen, I think that that's not to say that I don't think he could be valuable for another team, because I think he can be, because he can shoot the bat. He's got really good touch. He can shoot the basket pretty well. He's got good passing instincts. He's a pretty damn good passer for a big. Can kind of play that like point center role. But I think when you already have Dwight Howard, I don't know if I like that. I'm looking for more of like a Chris Boucher type, guy who's long, can block shots, but then can also step out and knock down a three. That's the kind of guy I'm looking for. So I don't dislike the idea of Boogie Cousins, but I don't know how it would work here. And I also think that he would probably have a better opportunity to go somewhere else and be assured backup 5 minutes.
Now, somebody asked, do you think that Maxey could turn into that guy? I don't know if he could turn into the guy, but I guess the question that I want to ask off Derek's question is Maxey, would you deem him like an untouchable trade piece because of what he can become? Or do you say, I can't worry about that. I'm willing to put him as part of something to try to get a veteran in here now? Or are you worried that if I give up on him, I'm losing a guy who 2 years from now is going to be torturing me?
I think there's a big gray area there, because I do still think he could be really, really good. He's 20 years old. He's got to get stronger. He's got to shoot better. But I think the tools are there. I think he works really hard. So I think the shot's going to come around. It's not broken by any stretch. And we've talked, a ton about his floater game and that little mid-range game he has, which is really, really good. I love how he uses ball screens. Again, for a rookie, for a 20-year-old guy, it's really impressive, especially when you consider, the draft process these guys all had to go through this year and the truncated training camp these guys had to kind of assimilate with their NBA teams. It's impressive that he was even able to crack into the rotation, because I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. With that said, it would have to be the right deal, but no, I wouldn't say he's untouchable by any means. If you can get
Lowry the right deal, would you do a Green and I assume, Paul, that it's got to be Green, and then I'm assuming it's got to have to be either Thibault, Maxey, or Milton would be one of the three guys that someone else is going to ask for. They're not going to say, "Yeah, give me Mike Scott and Korkmaz and Green, and I'll give you a Lowry." Like, they're going to want one of your younger players to give up. Even to give that up.
Well, specifically with Lowry, I can tell you that I've worked that NBA trade machine to death, and the only way you make the money work is Mike Scott, Danny Green, Tony Bradley, and Terrence Ferguson. That's the only way you make that money work. If you swap any one of those guys out with Thibault, with Milton, with Maxey, the money doesn't work. It's just not enough. So you need to put all four of those guys in a trade. So that means. Yeah, so that means you are going to have to include draft compensation. So you're talking, and then it's at that point, the Raptors are in a really good position of, again, just talking about Lowry specifically, the Raptors have all the leverage. They are right in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference. There's rumors they've been looking at Andre Drummond possibly. Yes, Lowry's in the last year of his deal and he's 35 years old, but they have no real big motivation to trade him. It's very conceivable that he could sign right back with them this offseason and finish out his career in Toronto. He loves it there. He's an icon there. He won a championship there. So they hold all the leverage. So is it a first-round pick they want? Is it multiple first-round picks? Is it some combination of first and second round? It would depend on what it is.
Yeah.
But just getting back to Maxey, I mean, it would have to be a difference-making player for me to include Maxey. Like when it was, when James Harden, when those talks were and Maxey was in there, I said, okay, yeah, I think you have to do it to get a guy like James Harden. Again, if Bradley Beal, I don't expect Bradley Beal to hit the market, but if he does, if Washington says we want Maxey, you don't think about it because Bradley Beal's that good. Every team's got to have a walking away point.
For Beal, Maxey can't be the centerpiece of it. You're going to have to go higher than him.
It's going to be mostly draft picks, I would think, because you're not. Listen, I don't think Washington would have much interest in Ben Simmons just because they still have Westbrook under contract, and I don't see how on earth that could possibly work out. So I would think it would be and again, I don't think it's happening before this trade line, maybe more in the offseason. It's going to be like similar to what the Nets did for Harden, where it's going to be a lot of draft picks and pick swaps in order to get that done. But yeah, it's got to be, to me, if just with Maxey or, with any of the young guys, it's got to be a special player I am getting in return for me to pull the trigger.
Good conversation. When the trade deadline is what, the 29th? 25th. Okay, so we got it's about a month left to go. The second half of the season schedule just came out, and as you chronicled at Paul Hudrick on Twitter, they have a road trip coming up that man, you could grow that beard by the time they get home.
Yeah, and it's not even just it's the road trip, so it's 6 games. 4 of them are West Coast games against good West Coast teams, including the Lakers and the Clippers. They come home for a back-to-back, and then they go right back on the road, and they're at Boston, at New Orleans, and a back-to-back at Oklahoma City, at Dallas. Then they come home and they play the Clippers and the Nets.
Yeah.
So that is like that. Like I don't think it's exaggerating to say that stretch could determine where they are in the playoff seeding. If they come out of that thing like around 500, that is a win because that is a gauntlet that they are facing. So I would say that's one of those things where if you're a Sixers fan, mentally prepare yourself because they are going to lose a good chunk of those games. It's just mathematics, like it's just numbers. Like it's just a very difficult trip. If they come out of the other side of that and they win a bunch of those games, then this team has a chance to be something special. Now a lot can change too. The trade deadline is within that. So maybe they make a big move and maybe they get a certain player that really elevates them, but that could also lead to maybe some chemistry issues. So maybe it's going to take them some time in a difficult stretch where they're going to have to develop that chemistry. So I'm just saying, Sixers fan, mentally prepare yourself for that very, very difficult stretch.
Oh, and if they get through that, Paul, and they are still the number 1 seed, you might have a legit title contender.
I would 100%. That's going to me, that's going to be like, we talked, like there's been talk about like barometers and all that. And like, no, hasn't been a true barometer, true test yet. That stretch though, that will tell you an awful lot about this basketball team and where they stand and how good they can be.
All right. Paul Hudrick, great job as always. Good conversation. And Paul, this time of the year, you're going to start hearing names, Zach LaVine, Lowry. I'm sure other names are going to start entering the mix. And then the buyout market, I would imagine the Sixers are going to have a lot of interest in that if they want to try to tweak the bench. So we'll be keeping our eyes on it. At Paul Hudrick on Twitter, McCormick and Blevins all over the Sixers. By the way, Blevins got the best deal of them all. He's in Tampa.
The weather. Well, hey, the weather's not too bad today, at least. I mean, geez, at least the snow's melting.
I looked. It was 80 down there. It's 80 down in Tampa.
Yeah, I would trade that, yeah.
He got to see the Sixers' first win in against the Raptors on the road since the Doug Collins era, other than the playoffs, as many people kept forgetting those playoff games. Brett Brown actually won a game in Toronto. How about that? The worst coach in the world was able to win in Toronto. All right, Paul.
All right, Mike. Take care, man.
But it's Paul Hudrick inside the Sixers, and he'll be back on Friday right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. So a lot of people are chiming in during the interview. And by the way, I love the fact that people are engaging. And as we told you yesterday on the show, the video portion of the show, we're going to be bigger and better. It's going to be, look, this is something that we just kind of threw out there. I kind of entrepreneured this video thing myself, and it's kind of catching on. So we're going to continue to do more with it and put more into it and have more engagement and have more, stuff going on. It's going to be a lot bigger and better. But we appreciate everybody who's watching and being a part of the show. Spread the word to your friends. If you're a bar or restaurant out there, you could put the show on inside the bar, restaurant, establishment. I would encourage you to do so that your patrons can scream at me up at the screen and say, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Jeff Bone and Pookie, sup? What's going on? But, if you're at your local favorite place for lunch or, you're going out for an early dinner, say, hey, can you turn the Sports Bash on the TV? If you're a bar owner out there, when you get in there, have that TV that says, boop, 2:00. We're going to put the Sports Bash on. I encourage you to do that. And we'll give you shout-outs. We'll give you a shout-out. Who has the game? If you're a bar or restaurant that has the show on, let me know. Put it up on the chat or send a text in, and we'll tell the people where you can go to watch the show live. Dominic is watching on Facebook. He says the best, deepest team the Sixers had in the past 5 years was when they acquired Bellinelli and Ilyasova for the off the bench late in the season. No reason why they can't move the young guys, get a LaVine or Lowry type, reload the bench depth, and win now. Problem is, Dominic, how are you reloading the bench if you're giving up the young guy? You're giving up Thibault, Maxey, Milton, one of those guys, or two of those guys. You're not adding to the bench. You're depleting the bench. You're adding to. So you talking about Bellinelli and Ilyasova, they got those guys in the buyout market. They didn't have to give up anything to get those guys. So unless you're saying trade for Levine or Lowry and then get somebody in the buyout market, I got to find out who's eligible for the buyout market. All right, I will try to look into some buyout possibilities. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash, and as we told you, coming up, it's football at 4 with Jeff Mosher, and I want to get into some offseason possibilities for the Eagles. How big of a player in free agency can the Eagles be? Because they are where they are with the cap, does that mean they can't spend any money? We'll ask Moshe coming up. And you guys out there can always be a part of the show. 609-403-0973. Hit me up on the text if you're watching the show live at 973ESPN.com. You can always be a part of the stream. And this is, by the way, as we said, just the beginning. We're going to be bigger, more engagement, more stuff happening. We're actually working on that today, working on improving the stream interactive portion of the show. So we'll have more details. Follow me on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show. Do that, and I'll give you more details. All right? All right, back with more. Enjoying the show today, everybody.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Euro steps by him and scores it up and good. What a move. Are you kidding me?
The Sixers host the Dallas Mavericks tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
This month, let me offer you some presidential advice. Leave me, your dollar in your wallet when you get 0% APR financing from Matt Blatt Kia.
Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months on new 2021 Kia Sportage, K5, and Forte models. Or take $4,000 off MSRP on new 2020 Kia Niros in stock. Plus, Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township wants your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers for Tier 1 and 2 credit for Kia Motors finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1516 per 1,000 power. 4,000 all 2020 euros with 2,500 Kia Motors factory rebate to dealer. 1,500 Matt Blatt Kia discount. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 3/4/2021.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/news. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey y'all, this is your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
So you think you have unlimited data?
Recalculating.
Think again. If you have unlimited data on a network you can't trust, your data is limited, and so are you. Set your smartphone free with the unlimited plans from Total Wireless. Get 4 lines with unlimited data on the nation's best network now with 5G, with 100 gigabytes at high speed, then 2G for just $25 a month per line.
You have arrived at your destination.
Get unlimited and save. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at Target. See terms and conditions at TotalWireless.com.
We know you're spending a lot of time at home, and maybe that home could use a little TLC. Since going to a home show isn't really a thing right now, 97.3 ESPN FM is bringing the home show to you. Local exhibitors have been setting up in a virtual show featuring the latest products and services for your home. Go to 973ESPN.com to find great articles on home improvement tips and trends. Thanks to our friends at Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys.net, your trusted source for 3 generations.
If you're very quiet, you can hear it. The joy, the freedom, the crunch. From 100% whole grain oats. Stay outside longer with Nature Valley Oats and Honey Crunchy Granola Bars. We are better outside.
You can watch the Sports Bash live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Search 97.3 ESPN or visit our website, 97.3ESPN.com.
All right, 9 to the top, Sports Bash. Tim from Millville. Nobody does basketball as good as the Sports Bash. Change my mind. Well, I'm not going to change your mind. I agree with you. I don't think anybody does do basketball better than the Sports Bash. Or football, or baseball, or hockey for that matter. I think Durso's the best when it comes to hockey. PT's great at hockey. Broad's great at hockey. Not my strongest suit, but I watch a game. The other 3, no one's better. Come on, Tim, you're right. You know that. Now, we like having a good time. That's for sure. I think I'm looking at some of the comments coming in on the stream, the video stream. If you're watching the show at 97.3ESPN.com. Gill, find us a list of potential eligible contract buyouts to replenish the bench. Not Ariza per se, but a Trevor Ariza, Mo Harkless. Hey, if Mo Harkless is available, I'll take him. He was a 6th draft pick. I like Mo Harkless. I will look for a buyout market group of guys. I'll have that for you in just a little bit. Let me go to Jonathan L. watching on YouTube. He's got a quick Eagles point. We'll be upset if the Eagles trade down to acquire a first next year. This way, will you be upset if the Eagles trade down to acquire first year? This way, they will have 3 first next year to build an old roster. This coming season is lost in 22. Will I be upset if the Eagles trade down to acquire first next year? Well, what am I getting in addition? Am I just trading down to what? 12? No, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with going from 6 to, say, 12, and I get a pick next season. No, I don't have a problem with that at all. Where I do disagree a little bit is that this upcoming season is lost. I don't think it's a lost season. Maybe Hurts can play. You ever think of that? I got news for you. Maybe Hurts can play. Why are we discounting the fact that maybe Jalen Hurts can play? And if Jalen Hurts can play, maybe Jalen Reagor can play. I know Miles Sanders can play if he can stay on the field. I know Dallas Goedert can play. I know Lane Johnson can play. I know Brandon Brooks can play. I know they didn't play last year. And I know that was a big problem. Getting those 2 guys back and getting the offensive line back, I've said this and I'll continue to say it because I don't know that people are putting this together as much. The offensive line is the biggest reason for success and failure in the NFL. You can have a good team go 10-6 with a horrible offensive line. You get into the playoffs, you're going to be the Seattle Seahawks. You're going to be the Minnesota Vikings. Teams that had good talent, awful lines, got to the playoffs, got exposed. The Eagles were able to win because they had the best offensive line. You might say talent for talent, they weren't as good as Minnesota was, but they had a better offensive line. Minnesota's offensive line stunk, and in key moments of the game, what happened? Eagles get to who the hell was the quarterback for them? He was terrible, but he had that good year. Who was the quarterback for Minnesota? Case Keenum. Bad offensive line, mediocre quarterback, difference in the game. Eagles offensive line, solid. Wentz makes plays because line good. What if Hurts can play? We're discounting that. Derek Cason. What's up, my man? Derek? Always enjoy Coach Cason watching the show. He says Hurts can play. Give us some more help at number 6. Hey, I'll take help at 6, but I'll trade down to 12 and get a pick next year too. I'm not anti that. I'm going to ask Jeff Mosher about that very pick. And can they make a move in free agency? Find out next.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the New York Rangers tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN and listen live on the free mobile app.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Want to increase your memory, focus, and concentration? Learn a second language. That's right. In several studies, brain scans find a noticeable difference in brain activity in bilingual people compared to those who speak only one language. Learning another language is one of the most effective and practical ways to increase intelligence, keep your mind sharp, and protect your brain against aging. Researchers believe knowing a second language can postpone the onset of dementia. We always want to encourage our kids and grandkids to pay attention in language class, but the benefits of being bilingual can improve our brain function at any age. With local classes, online apps, and other educational tools, it's easier than ever to master a new language. So if you were snoozing during your high school Spanish class, it's not too late to learn now. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Ugh, nothing's worse than starting trouble. We can help you out. We can start with a free battery test. That way we'll know if your battery is causing the issue. It could be your starter or your alternator. You don't want to waste money on the wrong fix. And if you do need a new battery, we've got you covered with a wide selection of replacement batteries. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination. Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2019.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Body Armor Light isn't just a sports drink. It's more than a sports drink. With no artificial sweeteners, no sugar added, and only 20 calories per 16-ounce bottle. Body Armor Light is changing the game when it comes to hydration. Plus, potassium-packed electrolytes, coconut water, antioxidants, and vitamins make Body Armor Light the perfect choice for your next workout and your active lifestyle. Body Armor Light, more than a sports drink. Head to drinkbodyarmor.com to learn more.
Some models exclude Corvette with GMF financing. Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
It's President's Day all month long at Bennett Chevrolet with our biggest, boldest, best deals ever, saving you up to 25% off MSRP on brand new vehicles. Right now, Bennett Chevy is selling brand new vehicles at GM supplier employee pricing. Plus, you keep all the rebates that can save you as much as 25% off MSRP. But there's even more ways to save with 0% financing available. Plus, if you're looking for pre-owned, Bennett will pay you a minimum $7,000 for your trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for your trade, no matter its condition. Imagine how much more you'll get for a good trade. And once you've dealt with our non-commissioned sales team, you'll rave about the wonderful experience with no need to negotiate and no hassles, because our team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's President's Day all this month at Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
It's time for some straight talk. Your tax return could look different this year, but you're still going to hear a lot of noise about how to spend it. So when the big carriers tell you to splurge on the latest nonsense, just tune it out. With Straight Talk, you can get a Samsung Galaxy A51 for just $199. Plus, get the $45 unlimited talk, text, and data plan with no contract on America's best networks for up to 50% less. Tune out the nonsense and tune in to Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
Here's the good news. Even with high unemployment, there's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today at mycomputercareer.edu. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
If you own a small business, you know how hard it can be to find new customers. Now, Town Square Media has new tools that can help your business stand out and grow. Go to GetLocalCustomersNow.com for a free competitive analysis that will show you what other businesses are doing to find new customers and how you can do it too with Town Square Media. Be one of the first business owners to sign up and receive $500 in free advertising on this station. Start growing your business today. Visit GetLocalCustomersNow.com. That's GetLocalCustomersNow.com.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Jeff Mosier.
My personality is I want to win badly. I want to win more Lombardis for Philadelphia and our fans. We got the greatest fans around, and I will do everything possible.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which drops tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., the very latest, from Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan. Right now, Mosher's in the house, and he is powered by Dr. Lyle M. Back for everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to iloveLyleBack.com or call 856-MAKEOVER for Dr. Lyle M. Back, proud sponsor of Football at 4. You have a very young look today, Moshe. Did you shave? Did you do something different?
No, it's the Carson Wentz trade is over, and my hair is not as white as it was last week. And no, I actually was able.
Hair? Are you using some sort of color?
No, I'm just kidding. I went out for a little run today. I had like a minute to breathe, so I guess the youthful glow is coming back to me.
Okay, I'll take that. So the journey is over. The course, the trade is in the books. I want to start by asking you this. We know that the Eagles are so far over the cap. And before we get into some potential ways to fix that, would that to you preclude them from signing anybody? Like, can they not make any moves? And like, if you bring a guy in, how does that affect your cap situation? Would you have to try to figure out even more ways to untangle your web if you were to bring a player in?
Well, yeah, obviously it depends on that player. I mean, they're not just going to get to a point, Mike, where they're right at the cap. They're cap compliant. Of course, you need to be underneath the cap just to be able to sign rookies. And you need to be able to have some flexibility for contract extensions. So they're going to have to make – this is why I've talked about when people say, oh, Howie gets cap compliant, it's not a big deal. I've always said, well, it is a big deal. I know he's going to get cap compliant. He has to. It's the rule. He can't be over the cap. But he's going to also have to do a lot of work, whether it's releasing, restructuring, trading, a combination of all three, to be able to give himself some flexibility to be able to bring in somebody in free agency. I don't think that they are going to be in on guys like who's the guy from the Bears? Like, Allen Robinson, right? And things like that. You're not going to see them go after a high-priced free agent, but certainly they need a backup quarterback. So they're going to have to spend money in some form or fashion. So there's holes they are going to have to fill with free agents. They're just not going to be A and maybe not B level free agents.
Right. Well, that's what I say. Like, if you want to bring in a veteran backup quarterback, you have to spend money to do that, which means you're going to have to figure out ways to get so far under that you can add guys like that. I mean, so, you know, if
I thought the Eagles were philosophically against paying money for backup quarterbacks, right? so it's kind of ironic that they may have to do
that. No, not necessarily. I mean, they paid how much? $10 million for Chase Daniel?
Well, that's what I said. They're philosophically against that, as we were told last year when they drafted Jalen Hurts, that they don't want to have high-priced backups anymore. So that's why I said it's ironic that after all that, they may have to spend a few million on a veteran backup.
Right, but to do that, to be able to say, okay, like even if they wanted to bring in like last year, they brought in Roby Coleman. That's just like a $1.5 million guy, but you can't even like bring like a depth guy in with the situation they're currently in, right or wrong.
Right. I mean, they have a lot of work to get underneath the cap to a point in which they're flexible enough to even spend some money on one-year veterans that aren't going to cost a lot of money. That is absolutely true. They'll get there. It could be painful along the way, but that's the position that they've been in.
When you say painful along the way, who could that mean?
Well, Mike, that's a great, yeah. Yeah.
If you say painful along the way and you're telling me, well, you might have to get rid of Nate Sudfeld and you're not going to be able to have Corey Clement and Richard Rodgers might not be able to come back. Okay, some of those guys have Rodgers had a nice little season. You might like Sudfeld, and you can't have the luxury of having a third quarterback, or maybe he would be your second guy now, but he was your third. But I'm talking about they're going to have some difficult decisions on bigger names than that, right?
Yeah, they will, and I think we'll start to get a little bit more information as we get on here. Some of them are obvious: Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Zach Ertz. I mean, Zach Ertz is a nice player. I mean, we may talk about him not being what he was, and that Dallas Goedert's ready to take his place. But ordinarily, you would like to have both of those guys, and especially with all the question marks you got at receiver.
Well, people know Ertz's situation. Does that make less likely that a trade and you're just going to have to suck it up and release him?
Maybe. I still think he's a good enough player, and I might be proven wrong on this, but there are a lot of teams that value multiple tight ends in this league. You know, the 49ers do, the Patriots do. There are some I think the Browns under Kevin Stefanski like to have multiple tight ends. There are some other teams out there that will probably be enough of a market where now that you've got a few teams interested, you'll just go to the highest bidder. Now, if you're a team that wants Zach Ertz and you're worried about losing him to another team in free agency, maybe you're willing to give up a higher pick than the other team. But we're not talking about a second round pick, I don't think, or maybe even not a third. So at the end of the day,
John Clayton was on with us. John Clayton was on with us last week. He said
Seattle, yeah, another
Seattle
team
would have interest, but it would have to be for a fourth rounder because they don't even have a first or a third. So if they're going to make a trade, and he said the problem the Eagles are going to have is there's a good free agent market out there, and Ertz makes 8.2. A lot of these teams with the cap going down might not have room for an $8.25 million tight end.
Which is why they might wait on a release and then try to re-sign him to a different structured kind of contract where, yeah, maybe he'll get $8 million, but it's broken up over a few years. Or you trade for him and decide you're going to restructure then and there.
All right, so that's the first that I've really heard that possibly being a possibility. Not that, I mean, it just sounded like this is not happening. They tried to work on a contract last year. They couldn't get it done. It didn't go well. The fact that he would consider restructuring to come back here.
No. I'm sorry. I should have realized I was not articulating that well. I meant he might get traded to a team that doesn't have $8 million to give him this year, but that team might restructure the contract so that the $8 million is spread. He still sees the 8. It's just spread out bookkeeping wise. My fault.
Gotcha. No, okay, that clears a thing up there because obviously I was like, yeah, that's not something that seemed like, hey, I'll come back here and play for that same contract, split it up.
No, that's not happening.
No, not happening. So just to kind of give people a little bit of insight, Jeff, on the moves with Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, what does that kind of signify?
Well, it signifies that they need to shed salary, and those guys are, making money and or are veterans. Deshaun is more about, you're only going to save $5 million. But you have to find every bit of million you can save on players that you don't think are part of your current, not just your future, but even your current. And Deshaun is not, and neither is Alshon for the money and for the production. They've obviously tried to replace those guys with younger receivers. And so that's an area where they can say goodbye, move on, and not really feel the sting as much. I mean, they're feeling the sting because, last year's receivers, they weren't great. They were very young, and they played like they were young. And next year, they're not going to be that much older. So you still got a lot of development going on there. Ordinarily,
the way I see it, Greg Ward is the most veteran receiver on the roster right now.
That is an accurate statement. He's the most veteran receiver on the roster right now. And to be honest with you, as nice of a story he is, he's just a slot receiver, and he's not an explosive slot receiver. So he's always going to be the kind of guy you're looking to replace. So when that's your most veteran guy at the position, that's never a good situation.
Nope. And again, as I see it, Ward, I mean, unless Marquise Goodwin, I don't know what the deal with his contract is. How's that all work out?
Well, his contract is way too expensive for what, for the value and what they want to do right now. But I sense that if they want him back and he wants to be back, he could probably come back on a restructured deal. He's not going, if he got cut, he's not going to see the $5 or $6 million or whatever the money is that he was going to make from another team. So he's a year older. He didn't play last year because of the opt-out, and he's kind of a one-dimensional type of guy. So, I mean, I don't see him making a ton of money on the free agent market. So he's a guy who could come back on a new deal.
Now, Jeff, there's this stat out there that from 2010 to 2016, every quarterback drafted in the first round is no longer with the team that drafted him. Knowing that, all right, would that kind of shy you away from wanting to take a quarterback with the 6th pick or even trading up? I mean, I've seen a mock draft that has the Eagles moving up to 3 to take Fields. So
what was the years span that you gave me?
From 10 to 16. Not one of those first round picks is still on the team that drafted him. When Wentz got traded, every single quarterback drafted in that time frame, none of them are now on the team that drafted him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to say it's a loaded stat, but it is only a 6-year span. And if you go back to 2010, well, that's 10 years ago from today. So, I mean, it is a position where you'll see movement. Even great quarterbacks like Tom Brady aren't with the team that drafted him. So
years
he was there, but he's a rare breed. So it's not surprising. I guess 2010 was like Cam Newton years. And well, when was Matt Ryan drafted? Was he 2009?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's a cherry picked set of years where it just for whatever. It's not like the guys though picked. All of them had terrible success. I
think it was to coincide with Wentz being that both picks in that draft are gone. The picks in and leading up to like 10.
Sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a pretty big sample size of 6 drafts that not one guy is still with the same team that drafted him. I mean, to me, this happened when they drafted. I remember when they were talking about trading up to get Wentz, and I was kind of against it. And my point was, these teams chase this ghost that doesn't exist, this franchise quarterback. Like, you are willing to give up. Like, why not find out if Hurts can play? Maybe he can play. Why try to, replace him before you even give him a shot?
I don't know, Mike. I mean, for every stat about what you just give, I can probably say, teams that win Super Bowls, 80% of them have guys who are picked in the top 5 as quarterback, other than the Tom Brady impact.
Interesting stat about I couldn't believe this, that Kansas City was in the Super Bowl this year. They won last year. They had 5 first-round picks on the whole roster.
That's pretty impressive. That's just
one of those 5
testaments that are drafting.
One of those 5 is Sammy Watkins, who really doesn't play all that much, or didn't have a big role.
Right. Especially not for all the money that they paid him. He was supposed to have a bigger role. But look, I mean, I guess I would say, Mike, I'm just objectively looking at evaluation. If you're a coaching staff and you're starting off as Nick Sirianni is, you evaluate Jalen Hurts and what you've seen not only in the 4 games that he played, but also you probably go back to college a little bit and see what he did there. And they probably even did that when they were all with the Colts anyway. And then you evaluate this year's crop of quarterbacks. And if in your evaluation, you determine that Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, any one of those 3, maybe even the other kid from Alabama, whatever, you look at them all. And if you determine that they check out all the boxes more so than what you saw out of Jalen Hurts, then I think you do have to draft a quarterback, because that's what new regimes tend to do anyway. I'm all for the whole idea of give Jalen Hurts a chance if indeed he's the guy that they evaluate as just as good as anyone coming out. But you just have to stick to your evaluation. I think that's the fairest, most objective way to look at it.
This morning, Adam Schefter said on a Philadelphia radio station that, quote, "I don't think they're viewing this as a rebuild. This is a league where you win now. I think they'll look at it like, well, move on from some people. That will be addition by subtraction. And so I think that they think they'll be competitive," end quote. Do the Eagles feel that they will be competitive?
I think that they should feel that they can be competitive. Now, we're talking about competitive for Super Bowl next year? No, but I look at it as meaning like you're not going to be terrible. You're going to try to fight to get that last playoff, which now the playoffs are going to be expanded still, right? You get the extra team in. I believe that's still.
So they have 7.
Right. So you've got a shot to continue to look. You're strong in the trenches. I wrote this on InsideTheBirds.com. I think it came out yesterday, right? I said, even when you have a question at the quarterback spot, which is always the big point, most teams that are good are very strong in the trenches. And if Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson come back. And if Jason Kelsey comes back, we'll see. That's 3 pretty good linemen. If they come back and stay healthy, that's good. Sayamalo has been a good left guard. We'll see what happens at left tackle, but they have decent options there. And of course, on the other side, you're still going to have Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham, most likely Josh Sweat. Yeah, you'll have Josh Sweat and probably going to figure out how to bring back Derek Barnett. That, to me, just like with Washington last year, they were strong on defense. They had some other issues that they had to reconcile, and Alex Smith was able to give them stable quarterback play to be able to win the division. I'm not saying Washington was great, but they were clearly the best team in the division. The Eagles have enough talent to be able to be in games. And if you're trying to build around Jalen Hurts, you don't want to strip it down and try to have him winning games when they're going to be down 24-0 after the first quarter. That's not a good way to grow or evaluate a quarterback. So there's no reason to go Sam Hinkie on this team. The only thing you have to do is make the moves to get under the salary cap and then try to build up through the draft and sprinkle in free agents.
Yeah. Look, I've been saying all along, number one, that offensive line, if they're back and healthy, you got a shot to be a successful offense. That offensive line was a disaster last year, and their offensive line has been pretty good. If you have Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Kelsey Sayamala, and whoever plays left tackle, Dillard or Mailata, that's an offensive line that teams can win with in this league, right? Whether you like that
Absolutely.
or not. So that's why, for me, I can't throw my hands up on the season. But I could ask you to help get myself cap compliant, and competitive and Super Bowl competitive are a little different. Do I try to maximize the value for my, a Fletcher Cox, a Brandon Graham, get value in return while getting cap compliant?
Yes, I think you can. Here's the thing about that, though. What is maximizing value? I've heard some people say you just got to get rid of anybody over 30 and get what you can get, which is like a Sam Hinkie style of thing. And I say you're never going to get equal value for some of your players who are still good players. They may not be 24 anymore, but Fletcher Cox is still a really good player. I bet you if he got cut right now, 30 teams would be trying to sign Fletcher Cox, right? So no one's going to give up a first-round pick for him, but he's still a valuable player. And if you tried to trade him, you're probably, because of his contract and his age, not going to get more than a third or a fourth-round pick. So if you took, 5 veterans on this team and traded them and got a bunch of fourth, fifth, and sixth-round picks, you're going to be bad. And then the percentage of you being able to replace them with fourth, fifth, and sixth-round picks, which generally, statistically speaking, only have a 10% or worse hit rate to even be a role player, right, in the NFL, not a starter, is not good. There were 7 or 8 guys, Mike, I think, who were over the age of 30 on the Super Bowl team. So they weren't what they used to be, but they were still good, solid players and contributors. You're talking about Malcolm Jenkins, who was very good, actually. But you're talking about Patrick Robinson and LeGarrette Blount and who's the other guy? Corey Graham. They were all players who produced for the team in some sort. Jason Peters was on that team until getting hurt.
Yeah.
So if you really think you can still be competitive next year, and then by 2022, whether it's Jalen Hurts or a quarterback you drafted, you're ready to start to kind of really become something, then those guys will still be productive players.
I think
Most of them.
It's funny. Somebody's put in here, I would trade up for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, you and everybody else. That's not happening. Jacksonville, yeah. Jacksonville's not ready in a position to be like, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to trade out of the number 1 pick and give it to somebody else when I finally got something to go my way. There's no way Jacksonville's trading that pick. So that's out. But why
not just trade for Patrick Mahomes? Just see if you can get Pat Mahomes right now.
Right, exactly. Make a call and see if Mahomes is available. Yeah, I would trade up for Trevor Lawrence too. First off, what assets do the Eagles even have to do that? Hey, you want the 6th pick for Trevor Lawrence? No, thank you. I'll keep with what I got. But I certainly would consider getting out of that 6th pick. Somebody texted in earlier, would you trade down and far enough that you could get a pick in next year's draft too? Then you'd have 3 picks next year, possibly in the first round. I don't know where you would have to flip-flop with to say you need to give me your first-round pick next year for me to go to your spot.
Good point. I think that, first of all, you're probably only doing that if someone's moving into 6 because a quarterback is there and the Eagles, don't want that quarterback.
Possibility this year.
Right. Very strong possibility. Otherwise, I wouldn't probably move out because I don't want to bypass a positional player who might be really good just to pick up an extra second or a third rounder. You don't get the kind of value you're looking for in a trade down unless someone's giving up future firsts, and that's usually for a quarterback. So, so I wouldn't do it unless. But then, I mean, who would do that? Maybe Denver at 9, or maybe New England. New England might be too low at that point. I don't know if you take a future first to get all the way down to – what's New England draft now, like 15 or 16?
15. Well, what's the difference? If you told me, hey, flip spots with me, right? You go to 6 and I'm going to 15, but you need to give me your pick next year. Now I have my pick next year. Hopefully Indianapolis is next year and that one.
Right. That's a good point. You really would be well fortified. But right. I would say this. It would really depend on your evaluation of the positional player you were going to take there. Obviously, you're not taking a quarterback. So are you passing on, I'm guessing like Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell aren't there. So now you're talking about maybe, passing on a Waddle, passing on Devontae Smith, passing on Micah Parsons, who they would definitely pass on because not. So maybe there's an opportunity for this to go on where they're caught in a spot where the guys who are there on the board that are highest ranked are guys that they feel are probably in that 8 to 12, 15 range anyway, and not top 5. So that all depends on your evaluation.
It's a good conversation because you just said Parsons and then you kind of poo-pooed that they would even consider him, which I found interesting because look, you mentioned something that Roseman did and doesn't get a lot of credit for was he hit on a lot of guys, and a lot of people say, well, that wasn't him. That was Joe Douglas. He was the one that brought in LeGarrette Blount and Alshon Jeffrey and these veteran players. So that's a blueprint that they can't really follow again this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're going to probably have to just shore up holes with some guys, but it's not like you're trying to find those 1-year veterans to round out a team to help you win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean,
And people keep asking, why does Roseman keep getting chance after chance? And somebody said the other day, like, he's supposed to be so good with the cap. Why are they in this cap situation? Well, number one, I will say when you lose a player of Wentz's ilk, that's a big crusher. But number two, I think he had plans to get out of this problem, but didn't have plans for the salary cap to drop because of the pandemic.
Of course. Then
how much did the salary cap drop because of that?
Well, that obviously is an issue of why they are. They were going to be over the cap even if the cap was normally right, but they just probably wouldn't have to extend themselves as much.
I think they probably planned, hey, we're going to be over, but the cap's not going to be 180. It might be 192. And instead, because of this, you've lost $10, $15 million that you thought was going to be on your side.
Right. So what Howie does that's different, and a couple of teams do this. I think the Saints do it as well. I forget who else, but they don't mind.
Yeah, Mickey Loomis.
Howie
Roseman.
Right. They don't mind doing the dummy years thing where they know that the player may not be on the roster like 3 or 4 years, but there is still some dead money. It's usually just not a lot of dead money. And then as the cap goes up every year, that percentage that the dead money is taking up of your cap is lower and lower. But a lot of teams, Andrew Brandt has talked to us about this a lot on Inside the Birds. A lot of teams just want your cap and your cash to match every year. And when you do that, you safeguard against things that you can't control, like a pandemic or like anything that would decrease the salary cap, which never happens, but now it happened.
And
that's the risk.
I think it was Joe Banner on Inside the Birds that said the Eagles went very rogue in terms of what the Eagles would do because they won the Super Bowl and said, let's go for it. And instead of following their principles, they kind of strayed from that and did things that they wouldn't normally do, which has put them to a little bit of a predicament coupled with a pandemic.
Yeah, and see that's the part that I kind of look at with a little side eye, because if you remember, it was this time last year at the Combine that Howie said, look, we know, and this is coming off the playoff, when they make the run, they get into the playoffs, lose to Seattle. He goes, we know we have to turn over this roster. We know we have to make moves, that we can't just be fooled by the fact that we made the playoffs, and hope is not a strategy. But then when the pandemic, after this last year, he's like, well, then the pandemic happened and we're supposed to be at an advantage because we have the same head coach and quarterback. So we reverse course. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but you got to stick to your principles. You had the right idea at first, and then you changed.
But, Jeff, their moves in the offseason suggested that they thought they were ready. I mean, they went and got Slay They went out and got Marquise Goodwin, and they thought, like, hey, that's the veteran receiver that give us, like they made moves.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Marquise Goodwin this. I think that they really did not pad the wide receiver position as well as they could have because they didn't want to do, because they were trying to get younger. I mean, you needed a cornerback, and you still want to compete. So you were able to get Slay for a third and a fifth, and the money wasn't. That was a good bargain for them, but they didn't really make it wasn't like trading for Michael Bennett the year before where you're like, oh yeah, I'm bringing in a 3-time a pass rusher, and that's part of the defensive line that we already have. We're just adding to it, even though we may not need it.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were on the right track to getting younger and flipping the roster, and then they're caving to Jason Peters' demands like 3 months later, and I'm like, wait a minute.
I think they felt like we're there, we're not there. Maybe we are.
You can't be that way. I know it's easy for you and I to say. You got to have a principle, and you have to stick to it, and you have to realize that you can win a Super Bowl and being weak at certain positions or rebuilding at certain positions, or you can at least compete for it when you're trying to flip certain positions over. That's the way the world works.
All right, we'll have to end it there. We'll have more, obviously, tomorrow. We're going to get into some draft stuff with Andrew, get his thoughts on 6, what's going to be in that spot, better to move down. He's the man to talk to about that. Adam Kaplan will have more on the offseason on Friday. Inside the Birds drops tomorrow morning at 6, and you had the debut of your new show.
That's right. Well, it's going to debut next week. We had them on Inside the Birds TV. I'm talking about former Eagles Jason Avant and Quentin Michael. They were on the latest ITB TV, which is available on our YouTube and podcast platforms. And then next week, Wednesday, 6 a.m., their first show will drop. I disappear. I'm not part of it. I'm just behind the scenes. It's just going to be Jason and Quentin talking Eagles and breaking down everything that they do. And they do it really well, and it's going to be an awesome show.
Jason's great. I've had Michael on the show before, but Jason I've met in person. We've talked through text a lot. He's been on the show a lot. Avant's fantastic. Michael was always very well spoken and broke down the game when he was a player. I'm sure that show will be must. Is it watch or listen? Is it both?
Both. You can either watch it on YouTube or listen to it on the podcast. You like the name? You like Q&A? That's a pretty good name, right?
Yeah, it's very clever. Q&A. I like that.
Q&A.
Quentin and Avant.
That's right, brother.
I picked it up, right?
You got it. It didn't go over your head.
No, it didn't, man. Jeff Mosher. Inside the Birds, the podcast drops tomorrow at 6 a.m., and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Thanks, Jeff.
You got it, brother.
All right, we got plenty more. Don't forget Football at 4. It's brought to you by Dr. Lyle M. Back. For everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery, go to ilovelyle.com, 856 makeover for Dr. Lyle M. Back. Proud sponsor of Football at 4. All right, there's a comment in here that I am going to pop up on the screen when we come back, and I am going to address. And it's from a loyal fan, loyal listener. And I appreciate this guy, but I think he's dead wrong with this comment. So stick around because I'm going to address it right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, watch the show live at 97.3 ESPN.com.
Turn it on. Leave it on. The Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
It's a new year and an all-new Matt Blatt Nissan. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot. Help us celebrate when you get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. 2020 Nissan Kicks. $4,000 off MSRP on in-stock units or get 0% APR financing for 60 months on new in-stock Nissan Kicks, Sentra, or Altima models. Plus, Matt Blatt Nissan has fast-track checkout available online at mattblattnissan.com. Our non-touch delivery and electronic paperwork ensures your safety comes first. We want to help with your credit approval today so you can drive a new Nissan with 0% APR financing. Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township or online at mattblattnissan.com. Unapproved credit. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. All factory rebates and incentives to dealer. 0% APR financing based on 15/16 for 1,000 borrowed. Offers can't be combined. Call 888-731-5030 for all the details. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
What can give you a competitive edge in today's red-hot housing market? Rocket can. That's because Rocket Mortgage can give you a verified approval. It could help your offer stand out. Rocket Technology provides a rock-solid verification of your income, assets, and credit, giving sellers greater confidence in you. Go to rocketmortgage.com or call us today at 8338-ROCKET.
A verified approval is based on an underwriter's analysis of your individual financial information, appraisal, and title report. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender license in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
This is Renee.
Happy to be here.
She's not some influencer. She's more of a groundbreaker, turning her 4-acre lot into a little slice of heaven behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Renee runs with us because the most important job is the next one.
That's all I got.
Nothing runs like a Deere. Get a 1 Series tractor for just $99 per month at your John Deere dealer today. For additional cost information, please call toll-free 855-633-2315.
Okay, set it down over there and then go to bay 5.
Indeed knows unexpected growth can stretch your business thin.
You need to keep going to finish.
Like Amir's warehouse. To expand capacity, he needs to get started hiring right away.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. And the moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first sponsored job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in-store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
We know you're spending a lot of time at home, and maybe that home could use a little TLC. Since going to a home show isn't really a thing right now, 97.3 ESPN FM is bringing the home show to you. Local exhibitors have been setting up in a virtual show featuring the latest products and services for your home. Go to 973ESPN.com to find great articles on home improvement tips and trends. Thanks to our friends at Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys.net, your trusted source for 3 generations.
What you doing? Designing my new 2021 Nissan Kicks Online in the Kicks Color Studio. I give each a special name. This one's electric blue, orange, red, white. I call it the gumball machine. You think it's me?
I feel like you're more of a red velvet guy.
Limitless possibilities. With over 100 million available color combinations and Bose Personal Plus system in the boldly new 2021 Nissan Kicks. Bose is a registered trademark of the Bose Corporation. Color combinations include interior and exterior colors. Customization is an available feature subject to availability at participating Nissan dealers. See dealer for details.
It's crunchy!
Creamy.
Sweet.
Salty. Nature Valley sweet and salty peanut bars, bursting with crunchy peanuts, dipped in creamy nut butter coating.
Delicious.
Nature Valley.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Broads on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And now you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 97.3ESPN.com.
Mike Gill with you here till 6. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Watch the show at 97.3ESPN.com. So I told you on the other side, before the break, there's a comment in the stream, the live video stream, that I'm going to put up on the screen in a second and address here because it's a little off base. This hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take home your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Check them out, PropSwap. They're my guys. It's a great idea. If you're a prop bet guy, a futures bet guy, PropSwap is an outstanding tool that you should be using, a little side hustle. All right, so I think there's a misconception out there, and I want to address it. Now, I was actually tweeting this morning. I got my phone rang, and it kind of like threw me off my tweet, and I never got to put it out there, but I was going to put that out there. Now, my boy Danuch, who's watching on Facebook, he says, Gil, you're a Roseman apologist. He has had one good season as a GM. He can't draft. He can't evaluate talent. His cap management ability isn't as great as you claim. He gave $128 million to a quarterback he wrongly evaluated 2 years too early. There's a lot there. Number one, I am not an apologist for Roseman. I am a realist for Roseman. It's not me. Don't blame me, Danucci. Go look at a NFL ranking of the GMs during Roseman's tenure. You won't see him outside the top 10. It's not me. He hasn't had one good season as a GM. The team is in the top 10 in the NFL in record during his tenure there. There is only 9 teams that have a better record than the Eagles in Roseman's record tenure as the GM. Now, in a 20-year span, they have the 6th best record. In a 10-year span, they have the 10th best record. So he's not as bad as everybody's making it out to be. He's top 10. If you want him to be number 1, fine. I'm the apologist. If you want him to be number 2, fine. I'm the apologist. All I'm saying is, if you're the 10th best team in the entire league in a 10-year span, you are being irrational. That's all. He can't draft. He's not a great drafter. I've never claimed he is, but he's not the worst. We hit on the 2 picks that he misses constantly, but we don't bring up the ones that he hit on. And I will do that for you, Danucci. He hit on Lane Johnson. He hit on Miles Sanders. He hit on Goddard. He hit on Ertz. That's just to name a few. Yes, he missed on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, but if you do the digging, and I think people just say, I don't care. It's Roseman. He's the GM. It's his fault. I don't think Roseman was the sole force behind J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. There's a lot of reporting that Jeffrey Lurie has got his thumbprint on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Look, the whole organization had DK Metcalf as a do not draft. He had an injured neck. There was a lot of teams that did not take him. 32 of them. He didn't get picked in the first round. This isn't just a Roseman problem. The whole league did not take DK Metcalf. He went to the second round because some teams had a medical X next to his name. So when you say he can't draft, you are fresh in your mind that he did not take DK Metcalf and that he did not take Justin Jefferson. He can't evaluate talent. All right. Well, he found these players in the draft that help you win a Super Bowl. He found these players in free agency that helped you win a Super Bowl. I know we don't like it. I know we don't want to give him credit. It is what it is, guys. I don't want to keep saying this, but if Howie Roseman looked like Joe Douglas, we wouldn't hate Howie Roseman as much. I literally had a tweet put together today, and I had both their pictures up side by side. I had a Roseman picture wearing a suit and his trench coat, and I had a picture of Joe Douglas, and he's got the Eagles polo on, and he's got his arms folded, and he looks like a big, burly guy. He's got the beard, real tight-looking beard, nice, bald head. If Howie Roseman's name was Howie Roseman, but he looked like Joe Douglas, Danucci wouldn't have that opinion. He gave $128 million to a quarterback he wrongly evaluated 2 years early. I got news for you, Danucci. The GM of the team does not have the authority to give $128 million to the franchise quarterback without everybody in the room thumbsing up on that one. That's not a rogue move by the general manager to say, I got an idea. I'm going to sign the quarterback to $128 million, whether you guys like it or not. I hate to break it to you. The owner, the coach, strongly the coach, has to agree. If Doug Peterson says, dude, this guy can't play, there's no way you're giving him that contract, they're not giving him that contract. So you might say Roseman was part of it. It was a team effort. They're all in on it. And that doesn't necessarily say that Roseman's absolved, right? That doesn't mean he's absolved from being a part of that. But the point is this. Wentz was a universal yes by not only Lurie and Peterson and Taylor and whoever else was in that room. It was a pretty much universal yes from people like you and me and everybody else out there. I don't know too many people that were like, you know who stinks? That guy Wentz. He's terrible. You might have one bonehead who's like, hey, I've been telling you for years Wentz stinks. They've been wrong. Wentz hasn't stunk. He's been very good. He was not very good this year. The guy who's like, see? No, people aren't these Wentz apologists. Wentz was very good. And now this year he wasn't. There's a lot of guys on this team that Howie Roseman brought here that we like. Sanders, Goddard, among them. Lane Johnson. Brandon Brooks was a guy that Roseman targeted, traded for, and basically ripped off the Texans. Hey, by the way, he's also the guy that traded Sam Bradford for a number 1 pick. Nobody seems to say, hey, my God, they got a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. You know who made that trade? The guy that we feel that has one good season as a GM. Again, if Howie Roseman's name wasn't Howie Roseman, and he didn't look the way he did, and he didn't talk the way he did, and he didn't dress the way he did, you wouldn't hate them the way you do. You might be frustrated, but you wouldn't think he was public enemy number 1. If you told me that I'm the problem, the number 1 problem, and my answer is I have a top 10 record. My team that I have been in charge of has a top 10 record since I've been the GM, and I won a Super Bowl. I don't know how I'm the biggest problem. Because now, again, if you say you're an apologist and you want him to be number 1, then that's okay, then fine. I'm saying he's top 10. That's all. That's all I said. I didn't say he's the best. I didn't say he was number 2. I didn't say he was number 3. All I say is he's not the worst. And he's not middle of the road. He's top 10. Jeff Bone and Pookie, didn't Howie draft Fletcher Cox? I believe he did in 2012. I think that was a Roseman selection. The 2012 draft, I think, was heavily Roseman picks. Anything before that is kind of a Andy Reid spot. GMs make mistakes. They do. They all make mistakes. So if you want him to be perfect, no, he's not. He's not perfect. He's not perfect. The one thing that really drives me nuts is this notion that Joe Douglas was the one that fixed this team and did all this stuff, and Roseman gets nothing for that. And then when Douglas left, now Roseman's the worst. And I said, well, if Douglas gets the credit for the team winning the Super Bowl, then he also gets credit for the bad drafts. So you can't say he gets credit for the good parts and that Roseman got credit for the bad parts. Howie Roseman, whether you like this or not, and you don't need me to be the one that tells you, listen to what Jason Kelsey said during his Super Bowl speech. The first person that Jason Kelsey singled out was Howie Roseman. That was the first person he singled out. That guy got sent down the hall, that he didn't see him for 2 years, and he built them a Super Bowl championship. So who am I a couple of years later to say he's the worst? Hey, you said you're an apologist. No, I just said he's not the worst. And I don't think he's middle of the road. I think he's where the Eagles are, probably top 10. And I would say, Danuch and everybody else out here commenting, I don't think you can name 10 other NFL GMs. So that's kind of the point. The Eagles have been one of the best teams in football over a 20-year span. They have been the 10th best team in football over a 10-year span. They're not the worst. They don't have the worst GM. They have a top 10 team. They have a top 10 GM. And by the way, they won a Super Bowl. So in the era of Roseman as the GM, right? In the era of Roseman as the GM, in a 10-year span, they have a Super Bowl. By the way, this is what Jason Kelsey said about, this is what he opened with, okay? This is what he opened with.
Howie Roseman, a few years ago, was relinquished of all control pretty much in this organization. He was put in the side, he was put in the side of the building where I didn't see him for over a year. 2 years ago, when they made a decision, he came out of there a different man. He came out of there with a purpose and a drive to make this possible. And I saw a different Howie Roseman.
He came out of there and made this possible. That's from Jason Kelsey. He said Roseman made this possible. I didn't say that. Kelsey said that. Who am I to tell Kelsey that you're an idiot and give Joe Douglas the credit? He said it. He said he came out a different guy and made this possible. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So there you go, Danuch. I'm not the apologist. I'm the realist. You're the irrationals. And that's fine. Fans are irrational. I'm here to buffer the irrational people and just say, look, there is a middle ground from the worst to the best. Somewhere in the middle, I think Roseman's probably around 10. And if you don't want a top 10 guy, that's fine. Jeff Bone and Pookie. I ain't going to front. I was pissed off at Howie after last season, but you just changed my perspective. Thanks, Jeff. I like that you have an open mind. I like this, though. Now, this is almost going too far. He says, I wanted Howie gone at first, but not so much no more. I just want him to re-sign Peters, or I just don't want him to re-sign Sproles and Peters. I don't think you're going to get that. Well, Sproles didn't come back this year. But by the way, the trade he made to get Sproles, he ripped off the Saints. He gave him like a 5th-round pick to get Sproles. And Sproles was a pretty good player here for a couple of years. All right, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. This hour is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. So again, to the Facebook message that started this conversation, I'm not the Roseman apologist. I'm just the realist. You are the irrationals. I'm the realist. Not an apologist, a realist. Not the worst, not middle of the pack, not the best, probably top 10. Number 10's a good spot for me. All right? All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Free mobile app. Watch the show live, 97.3 ESPN.com, and you can get the live video each and every day. We're live with you from 2 to 6 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, at 97.3 ESPN.com. We'll be back.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the New York Rangers tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
Bigger, better, Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda. Bigger, better, Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda.
Your brand new Honda is waiting for you at Boardwalk Honda. Stop in and shop our complete new inventory. Accords, Civics, CR-Vs, you name it. And we have a great selection of SUVs with all-wheel drive capabilities, perfect for snowy conditions. Right now, lease a new 2021 HR-V LX all-wheel drive for just $99 a month. Or lease a new 2021 CR-V EX all-wheel drive for $189 a month. Plus, browse our entire selection of pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas. We have it all from store to shore. We're sure to have the vehicle you want at the price you want. Plus, we work with all credit situations. Boardwalk Honda partners with over 25 top financial lenders, so we'll help you get approved and on the road in your new Honda in no time. Visit Boardwalk Honda today, located in Egg Harbor Township, or shop online at boardwalkhonda.com. And remember, from Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal.
Bigger, better, Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda.
Call us toll free at 844-890-3390 for more details.
What do you get when you talk to a Dell Technologies advisor? You get someone who understands there's an art to listening.
Sure.
Who's able to hear more than what's being said and can provide tailored small business solutions that make you feel truly heard.
I understand. Let's get started.
For advice on everything from laptops to the cloud and solutions powered by Intel vPro platform, call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL.
Last night's sleep? Interrupted by pain? Tonight, silence it. With new ZQuil Night Pain. Restful sleep Now with powerful pain relief. ZzzQuil Night Pain combines America's #1 sleep aid with a maximum strength pain reliever. So you can fall asleep fast and wake feeling rested, because pain should never get in the way of a great night's sleep. New ZzzQuil Night Pain. Silence pain. Sleep soundly. Available at retailers near you.
Before you move in and start making a lifetime of memories, there's something you should remember: the value of working with a realtor. A realtor is more than an expert in the field who abides by a code of ethics. A realtor is your neighbor and your ally. Someone who puts your agenda ahead of theirs. Someone who understands your dreams and has the expertise to make them a reality. Finding the right place starts with you and a realtor, and the doors we open together. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Panera's new flatbread pizzas are here. But to our new chef, Klaus, they're not just pizzas. They're masterpieces. Because it's not just cheese. It's hot and melty mozzarella and fontina cheese. It's not just sauce. It's market tomato red bell pepper sauce. And it's not just toppings. It's fresh mozzarella, basil, and grape tomatoes. Taste our delicious new flatbread pizzas today. Order online for pickup or delivery. Panera. Restrictions apply.
And now more Straight Talk from Straight Talk. The big wireless companies say they're the only way to get the best coverage.
Because they've got like a gajillion cell towers?
Something like that. But Straight Talk Wireless runs on those same towers, so you get the same great networks for up to 50% less.
I wonder if they're counting that one in Kickapoo, Kansas.
Oh boy. Switch today and get our unlimited plan for just $45 a month with 25 gigs at high speeds and no contract. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise.
Savings may vary. See straighttalk.com.
Gary is refinancing his home, so he shopped around for the lowest rate and found it at Amerisave.com, setting him up for a lifetime of savings. It's one decision he'll never regret, unlike taking that gig in the testing lab at the deodorant company.
Raise your arm, please. Oh, man, I hate this job.
Pretty regrettable, Gary. Unlike finding that low mortgage rate at Amerisave.com that's got you on your way to a lifetime of savings. Amerisave's rates won't be this low forever, so go to Amerisave.com now. Lower mortgage rates mean higher savings. Call 866-514-SAVE or visit Amerisave.com/licensing for cost information, terms, and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all states except New York. And MLS number 1168.
Now, back to the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Shall we begin?
All right, 4:52 on a Wednesday edition. Jeff Nadeau is going to join me to fill in for Broads, the final hour show. Broads had an emergency today. That's why he is not here. He'll be back tomorrow. Jeff's going to fill in for the last hour with me. And we talk to Jeff on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We do a lot of good conversation, but Jeff's a wealth of sports knowledge. But I know that he and I don't agree on a couple of things that were going to be interesting, probably Roseman being one of them. The other one being Ben Simmons. I think that would be another topic that we will probably hit on in the 5 o'clock hour. So you're going to stick around for that. It's coming up tonight from 5 to 6. Jeff will join me for the final hour of the show. Anthony James, talk that talk, Mike. Sick of the Howie slander. Like he is a damn Scooby-Doo villain, and we're the meddling kids. We won the Super Bowl. He was a guy, I give him credit. I'm not going to go crazy over a bad season. They had a bad season. They had a lot of injuries. They've missed on some picks. They've hit on some picks. They went to the playoffs. They've given me a nice ride. It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. You guys just have irrational expectations. You want to win the Super Bowl every year, which is great. I just am the guy who understands you can't win the Super Bowl every year. When you get up to that Super Bowl, you do things to get there. Inevitably, it starts crashing back down, and then you have to say, hey, we got to build up. Now, missing on Rieger, maybe. I mean, you guys are ready to give up on Rieger. I'm not. I mean, hey, Jefferson was great in Minnesota. Yeah, guess what? If he played here, he would have sucked last year, most likely, because Wentz was terrible. I'm not going to say he would have been a bust, but you're not getting the numbers that you got out of in Minnesota if he played here. So we're assuming that, hey, if this guy played here, he would have had 1,200 yards and 12. No, he would have had 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you would have said, this guy Jefferson's not all that good. Right? So, yeah, you miss on guys. The DK Metcalf stuff, every team passed on him. Every team passed on DK Metcalf. It's frustrating. But just because you're frustrated doesn't mean, like, they're the two picks that everybody goes to. Now, Jefferson goes to the Vikings. You know, they had Diggs. They had Thielen. They had an offense that was built for his position already. The Eagles did not have that. Their quarterback was horrible last year. So Jefferson's not going to have the team around him. Here's a text message that just, how is it a guy who never played football makes the final decision on who to pick? That's every team. John Schneider never played football. He drafts for the Seahawks. They do okay. Most GMs in this league did not play football. I mean, to have that mentality, it's not 1974 anymore, dude. Like, guys who played football, John Elway played football. You want him to make your final decision on who to pick? Because if you do, you got problems. I'll take John Schneider, who didn't play football. You take John Elway, who did play football. Non-football guys beat up on football guys when it comes to running an organization. Mickey Loomis, Saints, did not play football. They do a pretty good job in the draft. Back with more.
Sign up now for this year's $1 Million Bracket Challenge. Registration is underway now at 973ESPN.com and the free mobile app until the tournament begins. The listener whose bracket has the most correct will win a $500 golden getaway in Atlantic City. Thanks to our friends at GoldenNuggetSports.com. And the top 20 listener brackets will receive a free bed at GoldenNuggetSports.com. So register for the $1 Million Bracket Challenge.
Hell yeah!
Now at 973ESPN.com or the free mobile app. Must be 21 plus to place a bet. Only available in New Jersey. Free bets are for online sportsbook only. Please see website for terms and conditions.
A national championship!
So head to 973ESPN.com or the free mobile app and register for the $1 Million Bracket.
Okay, set it down over there and then go to bay 5.
Indeed knows unexpected growth can stretch your business thin.
You need to keep going to finish.
Like Amir's warehouse. To expand capacity, he needs to get started hiring right away.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. And the moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first sponsored job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Switch to T-Mobile for Business and get up to 90 days of service free via virtual rebate on your business plan. You get a great deal, the largest 5G network, and first-class benefits like Microsoft 365 on us. It's better for business and only with T-Mobile for Business. Limited time offer. Stop in-store for details. Plus taxes and fees for some plans. Virtual Express MasterCard within 8 weeks of receipt of valid submission. Complete port within 60 days. See T-Mobile.com for 5G devices, coverage, and plan details.
This month, let me offer you some presidential advice. Leave your dollar in your wallet when you get 0% APR financing from Matt Blatt Kia.
Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months on new 2021 Kia Sportage, K5, and Forte models. Or take $4,000 off MSRP on new 2020 Kia Niros in stock. Plus Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township wants your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers for Tier 1 and 2 credit for Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1516 for 1,000 cars. 4,000 all 2020 euros with 2,500 Kia Motors factory rebate to dealer. 1,500 Matt Blatt Kia discount. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 3/4/2021.
Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River. Yeah.
The NBA and Keyshawn J. Will and Zubin.
You have to be the best of the best to be the face of the league. It just can't be because of what you bring off the court.
Get inside the biggest stories.
They're going to be very cautious with how they bring AD along and bring him back.
Plus, the insiders come here to tell you what to expect next.
There was some swelling. He's going to get an MRI today.
The NBA is on. Keyshawn J. Will and Zubin. Weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
This is Renee.
Happy to be here.
She's not some influencer. She's more of a groundbreaker, turning her 4-acre lot into a little slice of heaven behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Renee runs with us because the most important job is the next one.
That's all I got.
Nothing runs like a deer. Get a 1 Series tractor for just $99 per month at your John Deere dealer today. For additional cost information, please call toll-free 855-633-2315.
You have the choice, whether it's going out for dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant or buying that new outfit from a local boutique. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local businesses.
First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape May County's community bank.
Dr. Lyle M. Back for everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to ilovelylback.com.
Egg Harbor Independent French Leader at Charles Schwab in the Consumer Square Shopping Plaza.
Filling Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. FillingMarble.com.
Intuitive Women's Health in Summers Point, accepting new patients. Schedule an appointment today at intuitivewomenshealth.net.
East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows services all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up. Call East Coast today at 609-646-1444. Online at eastcoastroofing.com.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses. From Town Square Media, South Jersey.
The radio home of the 76ers.
For three, with good, up and go.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
Howie Roseman, a few years ago, was relinquished to all control pretty much in this organization. He was put in the side, he was put in the side of the building where I didn't see him for over a year. 2 years ago, when they made a decision, he came out of there a different man. He came out of there with a purpose and a drive to make this possible. And I saw a different Howie Roseman.
That was Jason Kelsey just a couple of years ago. He said Howie Roseman made this possible. Jeff Bone and Pookie says Howie is responsible for our Super Bowl. Yet he is the villain number one right now. Jeff Nadeau, formerly of Barstool Sports, he is now on the Sports Bash, filling in for Broads today for the final hour of the show. Now, we typically talk a lot about betting and gambling and all that stuff, and we will continue to do so throughout the time. But you have a lot of other sports takes that typically you and I don't agree on very much. Hold on. There we go. Well, you got to unmute yourself.
Sorry. How do I not know this by now, Mike? I put the mute on and then I forget. But we do disagree a lot, which I never – when we talk and anytime I talk to you, I always feel like I could talk to you for hours. But I guess
I'm pretty reasonable. I'm rational and reasonable, and I'm willing to, hear your side of things. Doesn't mean I have to agree. I always say, I'm not right, you're not wrong. We just don't agree.
Right. And you're pretty. I have noticed you are pretty kind with that. Like if you don't agree, I don't really know you. Like I didn't know you loved Howie Roseman.
No. I said I didn't love Howie Roseman. Like somebody just said, they called me a Howie Roseman apologist, and I said I'm not an apologist. I'm just being reasonable. They have the 10th best record in football during his tenure. He's not the worst. He's not the best. If you wanted to be the best, then yes, I'm being an apologist. I just said. They're a top 10 team in football.
But would you agree that they're in a terrible position right now?
They are in a terrible position currently.
And who's that because of, Mike?
Well, I mean, one bad year. They went to the playoffs the year before. They went to the playoffs the year before that. They won the Super Bowl. They were 7-9. They have one back-to-back losing season in 20 years. They've lost back-to-back losing seasons once, and they went 7-9 and set hardly 4-12, 4-12. So, yeah, they had a bad season this year, but would you not agree that a lot of that was predicated on, look, they had a lot of injuries. They had a lot of problems with the quarterback position.
Right.
You could say that, okay, he picked the quarterback, but you know and I know, for $128 million, he don't walk in with guns a-blazing saying, I got an idea. Let's sign the quarterback. That was signed off by everybody in that organization.
And I think what you played at the beginning of this segment it's kind of interesting because I think he's almost held that over them that, look, you gave up on me once, it didn't work, and I kind of have some kind of connection here that I've had for a while, and we're not going to make that same mistake again. So I think he has more control probably than we even lead on. But my issue with Howie, and I wrote about
Jeff, the fact that Laurie had his feet held to the fire by Kelly.
Right.
He gave in to Kelly, and that blew up in his face. And he's saying, my guy here, Old Faithful, we win all the time. We might not win Super Bowls, but in the end, we're 10-6, we're 11-5, we win divisions, we're going to the playoffs, our fans love us, we're always in it. They're always in the mix.
And that's what he can always hold over his head. Look, we tried this once, and here I still am. And he has the Super Bowl as well. Because any non-Eagles fans always say, but you won a Super Bowl. Right. But I wanted to win and keep winning. I didn't want it to just be a one-off year. But my issue, Mike.
You want to be the exception, not the rule. In the NFL, there's one exception. That's the Patriots. Everybody else is the rule. You win one, I win one, I got one, they got one. The Giants have two. Pittsburgh has over a 20-year span. How many teams have two?
Right. No, you're right. But we've been so close. But I guess a lot of that has to do with the fact that, they're always a relevant team. And that does have to do with Howie Roseman. But for me, it's always been the continued failure at certain parts of them. Drafting has been a major. And I wrote about this when I was at Barstool. I kind of highlighted receiver. And in my lifetime of 31 years, Mike, I can't remember more than maybe one time where they've hit on that position and hit it out of the park. It's almost amazing, Mike.
Yeah, but that's an organizational philosophy. Andy Reid was the same way. If you look at Kansas City, they got Hill in the 5th round. They're getting Hardman in the 2nd or 3rd. They're not putting a lot of draft. And Reid was this. When Reid was here, it was the same thing. They don't have any receivers. They don't have any receivers. They don't have any receivers. And it was so damn frustrating. But that's an organizational philosophy.
Right. And the organizational philosophy, and the Sixers have the same issue. I mean, for years, they have devalued the draft and what it means. I've always bring up the Miami Heat. Because you look at the Miami Heat, almost exclusively, they have been built through the NBA draft and valuing second-round picks and understanding that if you look far enough and into it deep enough, you can find those gems. The Eagles never hit on those players. And even the guys they choose in the first round, almost exclusively last year, Mike, everyone outside of Jalen Reagor had a great season. The only one that didn't was Jalen Reagor.
Well, how much of that was Jalen Reagor being hurt and his quarterback was awful? If you to Jefferson here last year, we're not saying, wow, look who we got. We're saying this guy had 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. What the heck?
True. And that's a good point. And I just wish at one point they would actually – and what would Carson Wentz have been if they'd have given him weapons? The same thing with McNabb. For years, they didn't give 5 any weapons. The one year you give them a weapon, they go to the Super Bowl.
Hey, I was tortured for years on this show that I was a McNabb apologist, and I said, look, his completion percentage when he got Owens went from about 58 to 75. I mean, you give the guy someone who can help him out, then you see the difference. Look, this team's got a lot of problems, but the problem became Wentz. I want to see what this team looks like now with that moved on. And I'm not saying play. He was terrible last year. So let me see how this team moves forward. Now, if you give me another 4-12, then I got to start looking at the guy who put this together.
And that's why if you're going to go and take Jalen Reagor, bringing in and taking a quarterback at 6 makes no sense. You could do that next year.
I am not taking a quarterback at 6.
No, you take a receiver. Take Jamar Chase. Okay, look at Josh Allen, Mike. Prime example. Coming out of Wyoming, I like Josh Allen. I didn't love him. And even in his first year, he didn't play that well. He was skitsy. He was all over the place. Look what happens when you bring in Stephon Diggs. One guy, one elite receiver. He's a totally different player.
By the way, Diggs was a receiver that was drafted in the 5th round.
Right, out of Maryland, right.
I mean, so these are guys that these teams hit on late. That's why I don't know where you feel about this draft, but I don't want a receiver at 6. I don't want a quarterback at 6. I need to finally get a player on the defensive side of the ball that the other team has to game plan for. They do not have a player that when you say, let's put the tape in of this team, who are we circling? They don't have them.
And that's another thing. They've devalued linebackers for years. And when you look at some of the great teams in the NFL, look at a team like the Bucs, taking guys like Devin White and hitting on these bruising kids, even like Darius Leonard at Indy. That defense is stout just because he's in the middle and he's a tackling machine. Micah Parsons is the only defensive player I'm taking that can do that. I think he's the kind of guy you take at 6. But
you don't like Surtain?
That high, a corner, That's another position they have struck out on considerably since Asante Samuel, really, which was, I think, when Howie came in. So, and had those, kind of had control. But no, Micah Parsons would be the only defensive player that high I would be willing to take.
Yep. I mean, look, they're like, that's another, like you said, organizationally, they just do not value the linebacker position. Now, there was a time in this league the last couple of years because of the way they spread you out, teams don't use the linebacker as much, but It's like it's kind of coming back a little bit. These guys are a little bit, because now you have a crew of kids who have grown up as smaller linebackers.
Right,
now,
it's that safety linebacker type of player.
Yeah, you're not getting Jeremiah Trotter playing linebacker at 245 anymore downhill, but you're now getting these guys who are like 225, 230, and they can cover. And that's where, like, I think now that talent has kind of infiltrated itself into the league. For a while there, you still had these old school linebackers trying to play that position, and they were getting blitzed in coverage.
Well, now there's nothing wrong with having this middle linebacker that is a tackling machine. If you can get two kids on the end that are just hawks and they can cover tight ends, and the tight ends new now, it's not this like big bruising like Mark Chimura type. It's these fast kids, like basically receivers. So,
what do you think of Kyle Pitts
at 6?
I mean. Just
why don't you take Jamar Chase, Mike? Why are we making it difficult?
If he's not there,
I go Devontae Smith.
So you like these receivers?
You have to. You have to start giving your quarterback, who you made it a point to take in a season. And maybe they were smart for doing it because they ultimately knew we're not going to hang on to Wentz. And Hurts did some really good things last year, but to get the full season and really know what you have with him, you're going to have an offensive line that's healthy. You got to get him a kid to throw to. You can't keep throwing to path mark, cashiers and mechanics down the street. We got to get legit talent in here. And I don't hate guys like Fulgham. They're good backup.
Is there a path mark in the area anymore?
I should have said Acme.
Acme, yeah, the Acme.
The Acme, yeah. But I don't have a problem with those guys as like third receivers. Like, they're honorable. But, like, you need a big-time receiver in here.
Well, I will say this. I'm not ready to write off Rieger. I'm not saying he stink. No. I just think that they didn't utilize, like, if you're like an old ECW wrestling fan, like Paul Heyman used to say, you got to accentuate the positives. Our guys didn't have these big muscular looks, so we accentuated the positives. We made them do this. And the Eagles don't accentuate the positives of their players. You got Rieger, and you're not doing bubble screens and jet sweeps and little curls and letting them get into space. Like, you got to I thought they did a bad job there. I have no clue what J.J. Arcega-Whiteside can do. Can he play at all? I have no idea, because the way they've used him has been horse manure. Yeah, Sirianni, who has worked with receivers in Indianapolis and in San Diego and with the Chargers, I don't know if he was in San Diego or L.A., wherever he was, but they have had success under him as a wide receiver coach. Can he get something from this kid? I need to find out.
Yeah, we really don't know. I mean, look at a guy like Nelson Aguilar. Prime example. Nelson Aguilar did very little here. I mean, it's certain he had instances where he played well, but he goes out to Oakland or Vegas, and he's been terrific. Why does that happen here?
We had the Aguilar thing's interesting, Jeff, because he had a good year in 2017 being used in the slot. And then
last year was his best year he's ever had, Mike.
Well, yeah, for whatever reason, they got more out of him on the outside. Here in the slot, he excelled. Mm-hmm. Anytime someone got hurt and he had to move to the outside, he was horrible. But in the slot, he was a terrific slot guy. He was so good at catching the ball and then reversing course and turning up the field. And he had so much speed that when he actually caught the ball, like 8 yards on the curl, he turned up field and just took off. And that was his best role here. But for whatever reason, they always had to keep moving him to the outside because somebody got hurt. All right, we got to move him outside. And then he struggled.
And that's something I always remember, that primetime game. I want to say it was against Dallas maybe, where he didn't extend for the football and he got laid out as far as this audience and the fans here. I mean, remember when he didn't try to catch the ball? He didn't put his arms out. I want to say it was a primetime game. But, yeah, that's another thing, injuries. Why does this team get injured so much?
That's an answer. That's a question.
Rick Burkholder was the guy for a while, and then he left, and it's been a mess ever since.
Well, look at all the teams in this town. The Sixers have the injury bug. The Eagles have the injury bug. And I mean, who can answer that question? Seriously, how can anybody really give you a real assertion as to why this team has had. Look, Jeff, the Super Bowl year, they had injury problems.
Oh, yeah.
This year, they had injury problems. The next year, they had more injury problems. And this year, they had the most injury problems almost in the history of the game.
And literally every 6-year draft pick in the last 5 or 6 years has either sat out a season or never played here.
Well, some of that could have been strategic.
Sure. Well, exactly.
And
But
by the
it's
way,
still fascinating.
Oh, believe me, the fact that they had, all the guys get hurt, this guy breaks his foot, the guy's held out 2 seasons, Noel has the ACL. I mean, yeah, they were constantly getting, and then it was just like Zaire Smith gets hurt. I mean, it just was always something. But for this Eagles team, look, I don't know how you feel about it, and people think I'm nuts to say this, and I don't know that I've had this conversation with you, but in 2012, Reed's last year, 4/5 of the offensive line was hurt.
Right.
Kelly came in the next year, they won 10 games. We thought that team was a disaster.
Yeah.
Reed got fired and out, they went. That offensive line came back the next year. They drafted Lane Johnson, and they had an offensive line and won 10 games. They're going to get Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks. I don't know what's going to happen with Kelsey, Sayamala, and you're going to have either Myalot or Dillard play left tackle.
And how much depth did you get?
You're going to have a capable offensive line. So if the kid can play quarterback, your offense might actually, believe it or not, be halfway decent.
No, and you have, that's so true. And you had so much depth. And one thing about a bad offensive line being in there is those kids that are in there get valuable depth. Guys like Jack Driscoll, who actually played pretty well prior to an injury. So, yeah, the offensive line is going to be great. I still think you must go out and get another running back. And I love Sanders, but this continued kind of turnstile and Corey Clement and Boston Scott, they're nice players, but they have to go out and hit like they have on that LeGarrette Blount type of player.
Who brought in Blount?
What's that?
Who brought in Blount?
Your boy Howie. Which he has, but again, Mike, I mean,
I'm just saying, yeah, he has hit on some guys.
He definitely has. Look, every trash can gets a steak once in a while, Mike. So I'll give him his credit. He's done that, but he has it hanging over him. He can always say, "Look, you tried to bring Chip in here. Look what happened. You banished me to the other side of the building. You bring me back, and we have some success." So I always have that over you.
Absolutely. Look, and again, I'm not sitting here saying he's the best, but do you find it odd? Like if you Google search rank GMs in the NFL, he's going to be in the top 10 on every list. You find me one where he's not in the top 10 in the last 5 years, all right? And I'll buy you a steak, and I won't even pick it out of the trash can.
Well, I think that's a national perspective. And obviously in Philadelphia, everything is and in South Jersey, everything is.
Let me ask you this.
Way worse than it is. But
let me ask you this. And I've said this a lot, and I want to see if you agree. If Howie Roseman looks like Joe Douglas, dresses like Joe Douglas, talks like Joe Douglas, do we hate Roseman as much? Is it the perception of we just don't like the way he talks, the way he looks, the way he acts? He's got that hanging over him. He wears the suit. He's kind of a city slicker. We don't like him. But if he was Joe Douglas, if he looked like Joe Douglas, but his name was Howie Roseman, I don't think we'd hate him as much.
That's an interesting. I never thought about it that way, to be really honest. I don't know. That's a great question. Maybe not. I mean, but I think a lot more of it has to just do with his decision making. But I don't think it would matter what he would look like then.
That's my point, is his decision-making hasn't been as bad as it's been made out to.
But no, I think what I'm saying is
I don't like him. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he dresses. His name's Howie Roseman. I mean, people look at that and say, he's not a football guy. What I said, do you want John Elway making your draft pick for you? Because you can have John Elway, a quote-unquote football guy. You take John Elway, and I'll take John Schneider, who's never played football.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, Mike. I would be interested to know how it would look. I guess he wouldn't get as much stick. He would still get a little bit because I think ultimately his decision-making has been bad regardless of how he looks. But, I've never thought about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating – like I got into this discussion. I said, because I actually had a tweet ready to put out today, and I got a phone call. It knocked me off. But I had a side-by-side picture of Roseman and Douglas. And Roseman's got the suit with the trench coat. And Douglas has a polo on, and his arms are real big, and he's got a nice foam beard and a nice bald head. And I said, if Roseman looked like Douglas and Douglas was Roseman, and you just flip their looks and their talk and their sound, I guarantee you people would not think that Roseman was as big of an idiot.
I never thought about it, to be honest. I think ultimately at this point it's a lot of this decision making. But when you really think about it, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, as they say. And, a lot of people just, like I said, in this town, just react way too quickly. And I've done that. But I never thought about it.
All right. Well, I want you to think about that, even sample that to people.
I will.
Maybe put that out as a question. If Roseman didn't look the way he did, talk the way he did, would you hate him as much? And I think people –
I don't really hate his look, to be honest.
No, he dresses well, but that's the thing. It's like he wear like some of
the –
should.
I feel like that's – like, why is that weird? Like, I feel like –
No, but like you see – like I keep going back to Schneider because he's a guy who didn't – he's not a football guy. He's been there for – Mickey Loomis is another guy who wears the suit.
Right.
You get some of these guys, they dress like me. They got the 3/4. I don't know. I'm not – the one day I'm not dressed like that. But
yeah, you're like somewhat casual, but not really.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he just like looked like we did, instead of wearing the suit, I don't trust a guy in a suit. I'm not going to buy a car.
You want like a Pat Croce, basically. Pat Croce used to just wear like jeans and like, when he was with the Sixers, he would, climb, do all sorts of stuff. He didn't dress like an executive.
Exactly right. Well, and it's funny. I'm reading some of the comments coming in. Mint Diggity's watching on YouTube. He says, "I agree. Joe Douglas looked more like your typical Eagles fans, more relatable of a guy." I hear you. I think that's the thing. Like we get people that are like Joe Douglas was the reason they won the Super Bowl. Well, then if he's the reason they won the Super Bowl, he's also the reason they drafted lousy. You can't have it both ways.
Do you think Frank Reich won the Super Bowl, not Doug Peterson? A lot of people love that.
A lot of people like that. Look, the Colts they've been good, not great. Oh, they had
were you a Jim Jackson won the Super Bowl, went to the Super Bowl, not Andy Reid?
What's that again?
Jim Johnson when he was the defensive coordinator. A lot of people would always bag on Reid and said, "What was Jim Johnson's defense?"
Right. No, I thought Jim Johnson's defense let them down a lot in some big games.
Of course, sure, always.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that but the game against Tampa comes to mind when Joe Jurevicius goes running across you, thinking to yourself, you're at home and your defense can't stop this lousy Tampa Bay. They had no offense. Brad Johnson beat you in your own building. Where was Jim Johnson's defense on that day? Not good.
People forget that. They never bring that up.
So Jeff Nadeau's with us for the final hour of the show here. So a little Eagles. We'll get into some Sixer stuff because I know we kind of hit on this when Jeff was on either Tuesday or Saturday about Ben Simmons. And I know that you're not the biggest of Ben Simmons fans, but it feels like you're coming around just a little bit here.
Look, Ben's seems like a nice kid. I mean, I haven't heard the best things about him from just how he is. But, when you look at Ben, it's not that I don't like him. I don't know that him and Ben will ever work together. But you show me certain, stuff.
I like how you're open to some suggestions here.
But how many games, Mike, have they actually played together this year on the court? I have to look that up. Do you have that?
I think I
feel like every time he's in, someone
it's been like last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But they played I think Joel's missed about 5. I'll have to look that up. But that being said, we'll get into that. I want you, though, you said you have a friend of yours that you have a story about. I
do. Yeah, I want to bring that up. So I have a friend of mine, and I've talked about this publicly. He's in prison right now. He's in FCI Farrington in South Jersey, and he texted me. They have a texting app, Mike, and he said to me, "Yes, in federal prison, yes. You don't get many per day, but you get like 1 or 2 a day." So I talk to him every couple of days. He reached out to me the other day. He said, "I heard you on the radio. We have a radio in here. We listen to 97.3 all the time. Tell the guy we love him in here." So shout out to my guy G's. I don't know if he's listening, but he's been in there a long time, and it was cool to see that he was listening. I thought that was cool.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Shout out to those guys.
Big shout out to where are they at in Millville?
FCI Farrington, federal prison in Millville. It's at a remote part of Millville, but it's South Jersey.
Was that in Bridgeton? Is that where it is?
Yes, Bridgeton. Yep.
Bridgeton. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know a buddy of mine used to be there. I don't know if he still works there or not, but shout out to those guys. Appreciate you guys listening to the show. Maybe we can make it more. Maybe they can. Maybe we can get a flat screen in there and they can watch the show there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'll pay for the flat screen. That'd be nice. Be good entertainment. I'll have to tell you sometime, Mike, a story he told me about the Super Bowl when the Eagles won. It's a great story.
All right, we'll get into all that coming up. I want to get into this Ben Simmons conversation. Coming up next, Jeff and I will talk a little bit about that Sixer win last night. By the way, Brain Dead Weasels watching on Periscope. He says the Sixers are 15-2 when Embiid and Simmons play together. So that's 17 games they've played. I don't know how many total games they played, but this hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Copiers Plus, providing quality products and services to South Jersey businesses since 1986. Service is their specialty. Online at copiersplus.com. He's Jeff Nadeau filling in for Broads today. Broads will be back tomorrow. His last day is Friday, so Broads is back for 2 more days. And then you're stuck with me all by myself for a little while. But we got a lot we'll do here on the last half hour of the show. The Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN, including now the last segment of the show, we do 5 questions. Nadeau is the perfect guy to do 5 questions. I'm going to ask him 5 questions because he will answer questions that he's not prepared for and give you real answers. Are you ready? That's coming up tonight. Stick around. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and watch the show live on 97.3 ESPN.com.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Euro steps by him and scores it up and good. What a move. Are you kidding me?
The Sixers host the Dallas Mavericks tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
On some models excludes Corvette. With GMF financing. Excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
It's President's Day all month long at Bennett Chevrolet with our biggest, boldest, best deals ever. Saving you up to 25% off MSRP on brand new vehicles. Right now, Bennett Chevy is selling brand new vehicles at GM supplier employee pricing. Plus, you keep all the rebates that can save you as much as 25% off MSRP. But there's even more ways to save with 0% financing available. Plus, if you're looking for pre-owned, Bennett will pay you a minimum $7,000 for your trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for your trade, no matter its condition. Imagine how much more you'll get for a good trade. And once you've dealt with our non-commissioned sales team, you'll rave about the wonderful experience with no need to negotiate and no hassles, because our team is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. It's President's Day all this month at Bennett. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
What do you get when you talk to a Dell Technologies advisor? You get someone who understands there's an art to listening, who's able to hear more than what's being said, and can provide tailored small business solutions that make you feel truly heard.
I understand. Let's get started.
For advice on everything from laptops to the cloud and solutions powered by Intel vPro platform, call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-285-5280. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-285-5280 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-285-5280 to see if you qualify. That's 800-285-5280.
Mom, I'm hungry. Popcorn?
We should live stream this.
Already am. With this new plan from Walmart Family Mobile, I get 40 gigabytes of high-speed data for under $40 a month. It's a limited time deal. Oh, watch out, loose ball.
Whoa.
That's double the data with no contract or surprise fees. Yay, buzzer beater. All powered by T-Mobile's nationwide network. Makes me feel like I'm a step ahead. Double data ends July 31st, 2021. Hotspot does not toll. See terms at myfamilymobile.com. Walmart Family Mobile. Stay a step ahead.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language. Babbel. Language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Broads on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And now you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at 97.3ESPN.com.
All right, 5:30. We've got about a half hour left in the show. And, of course, you guys out there can always text in 609-403-0973. Good stuff to start the first part of the show. Mike Gill. Jeff Nadeau's hanging in. He is filling in for Broads today. By the way, I want to tell you about my friends at Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro. If you're a weekend warrior, even if you're not a weekend warrior, you can actually play. Check them out for physical therapy, ACL injury, rehab, script-free physical therapy, sports performance training, and more. A weekend warrior, a finely tuned athlete competing at the highest professional or collegiate league, Trifecta helps the pros and Joes alike. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. They're right there in downtown Glassboro, so check them out. All right, I'm Mike Gill. What's going on, everybody? He's Jeff Nadeau. And, all right, I like to get the people all riled up sometimes, but I like to get you riled up on this one. I know you and I don't agree. I've seen you for years on the Twitter feed going on about how much it's time to trade Ben Simmons, but I can't sign up for that yet. I mean, I'm gonna let you I can't do it. I can't sign up for that, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mike, Ben is having a great year, but when you really look at the grand scheme of things, he's actually taking less shots. He's getting to the line a little bit more, and his other numbers are pretty similar, to be really frank. If you look at his statistics, but I just still look at them and I say they still have that major move they need to make. They need a shot creator. They need a true altogether point guard. I just think Ben is probably utilized in the wrong position. Now, I think bringing Doc Rivers in has fixed him, and I think he's fixed them, and I think there's still a lot to be excited about. I just look at it and I say, I'm not necessarily saying that we have to get rid of Ben, but I just want to bring someone else in that can be that guy, that creator, that Kyle Lowry type.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, here's the problem I have. Like, Ben's frustrating, okay? But I've come to at peace. Like, to me, I wrote a piece about this at the website that the Bulls had Pippen, Jordan, and Rodman, right? I'm looking at Ben as the Rodman. I don't want him to score. I don't count on him to score. Whatever he does score, that's gravy. But what he does defensively, but what he does for the other guy, he makes Seth Curry an average player, a good player. He makes Tobias Harris a good player, a great player. Those guys are just average pieces. Ben makes them better. So your team is not as good as you are if you have another guy in here playing with those guys, because then those guys go down. You can't have that.
Right. And I think when you say it like that and you admit that you would agree that he should not be the point guard of this team.
No, I think when he's not here, the pace of the team and they are so helter-skelter. They don't now.
Right, but if you bring someone in that can play that role and be that shot creator, and you put him somewhere else, that would be the best situation, wouldn't it?
If you had like whenever somebody else plays that position, they're a disaster. Like, they just have no flow. See, one of the things I think that he does is so underappreciated, Jeff, is, and people get pissed off at him about this, and they get so frustrated. He'll go to the basket, all right, and then he stops, which I don't like either. Like, take the ball aggressively, get yourself fouled, and get to the line. I think he's doing that more. But when he does this, he puts himself in a spot where he doesn't panic. and he just calmly will stay there and wait until a second guy and sometimes even a third guy, and then boop, he's so good at finding the wide open guy. And then these guys, these Currys, these Greens, these Harrises, they get wide open looks, all because of his patience of just standing there waiting for you. He's like, come on, I'm going to find the guy, come on. And then as soon as that guy commits, whoop, he whips that pass, and these guys get such open looks.
But at the end of the day, Mike, they still have the same problem when the rubber meets the road in the playoffs, because I don't care what they do in the regular season. 21-11 means very little to me at the end of the day. It's, can they make a bucket? Do they have a guy in the guts of the game in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're down 3, whatever, you need a bucket. And they don't have that guy. They haven't had that guy. The only guy they had was Jimmy Butler, and they got rid of him. And I don't think I just don't think Ben will ever be that guy. And I did hear you say the other day that he's getting to the line more and he's been better from the line. So he's starting to bother people that want to foul him or he's hurting teams that way. But I just look at the end of the day, he will never be that guy. And he's a good piece, but I still think you need something else. And a Kyle Lowry,
like, he's not the guy that get the big bucket. Here's where the big rubber meets the road, and I agree with, we've had this conversation, he was only scoring 13 points a game. That average is now up to 15, but I said, I don't care if he only scores 11 if Curry has 20 in the game. I don't care where the points come from. Do we agree on that?
No.
All right.
We don't care where they come from.
So people were like, well, he has to score more than 11 points. You want him to score more than 11 because he can, but he doesn't care if he does. So on that night, if he scores 11 and Curry scores 20, I'm okay with that. The big thing will be, can Curry score 20 in a game that matters?
Right.
That's what we don't know yet.
Right. And we know that the bench for the most part isn't great. I mean, I don't trust Danny Green. They have to go make some more moves.
The difference is, though, Jeff, Joel Embiid, okay, for the last couple of years, we've been, and I think this is part of the problem, that guys like you, they get frustrated. This team was not ready to win the last 4 years. They were young, they were immature, they made mistakes. And let's be honest, they were just not ready.
Well, Mike, how long do you put up with that?
I think Joel Embiid at 26 years old now, this season, he looks like he is ready to make that step to, I can get that bucket. I can score the ball. I'm more mature. I'm ready to play. And I think that's going to be a big difference from the teams that they had that 3 years ago against Boston when he had the welding mask on his face. They weren't ready to win that series.
And that's a really good point. I made a comment when I was doing a Periscope, I think, at some point, and someone mentioned that. And I said, this is going to sound weird, Mike, but you notice Joel got married. He had a kid. He's starting to mature and grow up a little bit. And we have to remember, he didn't play basketball for that long prior to going to Kansas. This is something where he needed to grow into his body. He needed to grow into his ability. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Dwight Howard was an underrated move. Dwight Howard is a veteran that you want on a basketball team. He's still got something left, and I think he brings a championship mentality. Is he the greatest player in the world left? No, but he's good for a team like this, and I couldn't agree with you more about Embiid. I think he matured, and I think he's at his getting to that MVP caliber that we know he is.
Right, and Jeff, somebody brought this up today. Ben Simmons is 24. Joel's 26. Go back 2 seasons of Joel Embiid. You thought he was this great player, but he just wasn't ready to win. Think about where Simmons is going to be when he's 26 and Embiid's 28. I'm not ready to give up on that. I would rather see what Simmons looks like here at 26 than see what he looks like there at 26.
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit of time left, but there's got to be a point, and I'm willing to give it a little bit more time because for me, more of it was Brett Brown. I wanted Brett Brown out of here. And Doc's in, and Doc's done some good things so far, but we all know that the only thing that matters to this team is June and July of this year, and when it really comes down to, because let's be honest, Mike, the Nets, we haven't seen the best of them yet. The Heat have been battling coronavirus. The Bucks haven't gotten going particularly yet. There's a lot of season left. They only played 30 games?
Oh yeah, this look this. And by the way, the second half, I don't know if you saw the Sixers schedule that just came out for the second half. They got a brutal stretch of road games, road trips, back-to-backs here. I mean, it's going to
And they really lucked out, Mike, in the first 30 games because they played a lot of bad teams. They got the Heat for 3 or 4 games where the Heat were throwing out a G League roster, Gabe Vincent and guys like that. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn still about this team, but they have to make another move. And I don't know if it's going to be a huge move, but you think if you bring in a guy like J.J. Redick, a guy that we know can stretch the floor, we know can give you something, you lose a little bit defensively, but he can create a shot. And you need that on this team.
Yeah, look, okay, so let's kind of get into this. Kyle Lowry, if he's available, are you giving up Matisse, Maxey, Milton, one of those? Because Danny Green's got to be in the deal to make the money work. And our Sixers insider, Paul Hudrick, was on earlier. He said to make the deal work, you have to have Green, Ferguson, Scott, and one other guy just to make the money work before you get to a player of value. You're giving up a lot of bench pieces just to bring in Lowry.
Well, I don't even know if it has to be Lowry. Okay, but no, I do not mind. I do not mind doing that. I would even look at it, and I want to say I want to say it was 97.3 that wrote that. I think I read the article. Somebody mentioned Patty Mills.
Yeah,
a guy that down at San Antonio is having a very good year, and they have an influx of young guards. At San Antonio, Patty Mills. He's a guy that I have some interest in. There are guys that can go out and create a shot. They're kind of good off the bench. We all know Patty Mills, Australian, nice little connection there, which I think they mentioned on the article. Guys like that are helpful as well. I don't think they have to get a Kyle Lowry. It would help. And yes, I would be willing to give up like a Thibault or a Maxey for that kind of player. Yeah.
Well, that's the big thing. It's like how much you have to give up. And here's what I kind of weigh. You are a team that's defensively probably better than, well, not probably. They are definitively better defensively than the Nets. If you're going to play the Nets in a series, are you going to beat them by your defense or adding more offensive pieces and trying to outgun Harden, Kyrie, and Durant? That's the problem I'm having here. Do I just stick with Thibault and this defensive-minded team, or do I get more ammunition and try to outscore the Nets? I don't know that I can outscore that trio.
Well, or you just get a combo of both. And Lowry's a pretty damn good defender. Frankly,
he's tough.
So
Zach LaVine, not so much.
Somebody says in the chat, says Lou Williams. Look, I love Lou Williams. I think he'd be a terrific player here. But you talk about a guy that doesn't play any defense. You're really giving up a lot on the defensive. And that's what J.J. Redick doesn't allow. He doesn't play defense either. So I think that's a fascinating point that you make on, are you willing to give that up? But if you can bring in a guy like Lowry, you don't necessarily have to give that up because Kyle Lowry is a tenacious kid. He's a tenacious defender. And he would love to play here. I mean, he's from
what? Oh, look, and it just the problem, we talked about this with Paul at 320, is the amount of pieces you're going to have to give up 4 or 5 pieces just to get him here to make the money work.
Well, it doesn't sound like you want to do that.
I'm torn because I do like Lowry. I like what he brings. And look, I'm not sitting here telling you Mike Scott, like these guys, but if you give away 4 of them, what am I left with? Tony Bradley, what am I going to bring G League guys up? That's the problem. Then I turn into the Nets, where the Nets have 3 guys and nothing else. I mean, they're going to ride those 3 guys, and that might be what ends up shooting them in the foot.
And that, again, kind of goes against everything I talked about as far as finally building assets and making the draft mean something to you and going out and finding these bench players. But, yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do in the NBA, though. If you want to win, you got to get the best players. And other teams are doing it. This team hasn't done it. Will they do it? We'll see.
Well, I tell you this. The one thing that kind of I think having Morey makes me feel confident that they will do something, right?
Right.
I feel like Morey will put them in position to do something, whether or not it's the move that puts them over the top. But keep in mind, Joel's 26, Ben's 24. This is a crew that he's also got to manage for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So if I'm giving up like somebody asked, would you give up Maxey and Thibault in a trade? That's 2 guys that you would think are going to be here for 3, 4, 5 years. Do you give those 2 away for a guy like Lowry, who's only going to be here possibly for half the season and then gone?
And that's that's ultimately your problem. Because I remember when Kawhi Leonard was on the market, I made it a point, trade Ben Simmons, get him out of here, bring Kawhi here. But that's always the question. Will they re-sign here? I think Lowry's a little different, though. I think he would definitely re-sign here. This is my thought.
There's a lot of people, and we talked about the fact that he loves Toronto, but Philly would be one spot that I think would make him think about it.
And I think you can make it happen.
Sports Bash is live, 97.3 ESPN, brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. For great deals on award-winning Acuras, shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. All right, when we come back, we got 5 questions with Jeff to wrap up the show.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep, indeed. We will get out of here with the 5. As always, Jeff Nadeau filling in for Broads in this final hour. This has been the fastest hour, I think, of all time.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Flying. But we'll do 5 questions with Jeff to wrap up the show. Coming up next here on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and watch the show live at 97.3ESPN.com.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the New York Rangers tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
Bigger, better Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda. Bigger, better Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda.
Your brand new Honda is waiting for you at Boardwalk Honda. Stop in and shop our complete new inventory. Accord, Civics, CRVs, you name it. And we have a great selection of SUVs with all-wheel drive capabilities, perfect for snowy conditions. Right now, lease a new 2021 HRV LX all-wheel drive for just $99 a month. Or lease a new 2021 CRV EX all-wheel drive for $189 a month. Plus, browse our entire selection of pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas. We have it all from store to shore. We're sure to have the vehicle you want at the price you want. Plus, we work with all credit situations. Boardwalk Honda partners with over 25 top financial lenders, so we'll help you get approved and on the road in your new Honda in no time. Visit Boardwalk Honda today, located in Egg Harbor Township, or shop online at BoardwalkHonda.com. And remember, from Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal.
Bigger, better Boardwalk, Boardwalk Honda.
Call us toll free at 844-890-3390 for more details.
So you think you have unlimited data?
Recalculating.
Think again. If you have unlimited data on a network you can't trust, your data is limited, and so are you. Set your smartphone free with the unlimited plans from Total Wireless. Get 4 lines with unlimited data on the nation's best network now with 5G, with 100 gigabytes at high speed, then 2G, for just $25 a month per line.
You have arrived at your destination.
Get unlimited and save. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at Walmart. See terms and conditions at TotalWireless.com.
If you're struggling with a drug or alcohol addiction, now is the time to take action and get professional help. Call Recovery Centers of America at 1-888-RECOVERY today. You are worthy of recovery from your addiction, and calling RCA will be your first step in getting the help you need. Recovery Centers of America answers the phone and admits patients 24/7. And because safety is a top priority, all patients and staff are routinely tested for COVID-19. RCA's expert team of physicians and medical professionals will treat you with compassion and dignity and provide an evidence-based treatment plan that is custom-tailored to your specific needs. Recovery Centers of America at Devon and Lighthouse are local and in-network with insurance providers, so they're best-in-class inpatient and outpatient care, offered both in-person and via teletherapy, is affordable and accessible. Make this the year you conquer your addiction. Call today, 1-888-RECOVERY. That's 1-888-RECOVERY.
You're ready to get back into yoga, so you order the essentials. A non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card, choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential yoga gear. Noise-canceling headphones.
Welcome. Take a deep breath. Breathe.
Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
We know you're spending a lot of time at home, and maybe that home could use a little TLC. Since going to a home show isn't really a thing right now, 97.3 ESPN FM is bringing the home show to you. Local exhibitors have been setting up in a virtual show featuring the latest products and services for your home. Go to 973ESPN.com to find great articles on home improvement tips and trends. Thanks to our friends at Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Broadleys.net, your trusted source for 3 generations.
You ready for competition? It's time for 5 questions.
3 ain't enough, man. I need 5.
Number 5 will always love. 5 times. Now can you think?
All right, time for 5 questions to get ready to wrap up the show. Jeff Nadeau's filling in for Hunter Brody. Broads will be back tomorrow, but I got 5 for Nadeau. All right, here we go. On Saturday's show, we asked you the best mob movie. You said to bring this back. What do you got?
Gotti, the HBO version.
Gotti HBO version?
It is the best, truest mob movie you'll ever see. I love it. It's the best, truly.
Now, you said something about The Irishman. That was on the other day. It's like
I think The Irishman is way underrated. People don't give it enough respect. It was wasted on this generation.
3 hours and 48 minutes. It's worth my time.
I wish it were 6 hours and 48 minutes. Why do we always say that? The Godfather's 4 hours long.
Well, it's like I didn't have 3 hours and 48 minutes to spare at that time.
The problem with The Irishman, Mike, is you watch it once, and then 2 weeks later you want to watch it again. But I'll give you another sneaky one. Carlito's Way.
All right, question 2. What's the best travel destination in the United States?
Margate, New Jersey.
It's up there. Imagine
beautiful.
Up there.
Yeah, I know. It's beautiful. It's safe. The food's terrific. The beaches are nice. It's quiet, usually. You got memories. What's better than memories on a Saturday night, Mike? Come on.
You know, I've lived here my whole life. I've never been there.
Well, this summer you're going to come with me.
All right.
Jerry, the geeter with the heater, Mike.
All right. Now, I don't know if this is the same answer. When you are down the shore, your first stop is?
The Trop.
Tropicana. Now, what's your favorite brick and mortar sports book? Have you been to all of them down here?
I have. The best one, you know, Mike, I always had a thing for the Trop. I've been going there off and on my whole life. It was the first casino coming in from Ventnor, and I would just always go there because the parking was cheap, and I just always loved it. So I think they have a great book as well, but Oceans has a great book.
Yeah.
They all have great books.
All of them are nice. This isn't the slight one over the other, but I don't know if you had like you like the one that you like, because some of them are big, some of them are small. Like the Trot one's smaller, but I think it's a nice smaller one.
Now, if you say to me, what poker room you going to? Borgata. Not even close. Borgata is the best poker room probably in the country.
How about that? Taj Mahal used to have a decent one.
They did. That's where the Rounders was.
Rounders. Yeah, that's a great movie.
No more, sadly.
No, that's now the Edis Arena. Well, no,
yeah, it was
not
knocked
the
down.
It's like the foyer of the Edis Arena.
Right.
Give me one long shot. Like if someone was going to bet and do a prop swap, give me a long shot to win the NCAA tournament that someone could take that ticket and then prop swap it.
Loyola Chicago.
Loyola Chicago.
I think they are very good.
Back?
What's that, Mike?
Sister, what's her name's back?
Jean. She's still alive. Yes, I think she's like 104. I think.
Wow, she's still
very good.
All right. So the long shot to win it all. Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, there's not a lot I love this year, but that's what I got that at 300-1, Mike.
So you could prop swap that.
I could.
That's a good one. That's a great example of a prop swap.
You prop swap a great company. What a great idea that is. That guy is smart as hell.
Yeah, Luke's a great dude. And but that you got that at 300-1?
Yep.
So what are they now?
50.
Jeez. They get into the Elite Eight, man.
They've been there before. They've been at the Final Four. I remember I was at that Final Four when they were in the Final Four with Villanova, Michigan, and Kansas. It was a great experience.
Best sporting event. What's the best sporting event you've been to live?
44-6. That game. What was it? 2006? Or maybe after. Remember the Eagles needed the Raiders and someone else to win or to lose. I'm sorry. And it was Terrell Owens' first game back, and he played the Eagles, and they destroyed them. I went to the game myself, Mike. I'd never do that.
That's something.
I had a ticket, and I couldn't get someone else to go. Someone canceled, and I went. And it was awesome.
Now, final question for Jeff Nadeau. Both of us, bigger gentlemen, or have been, you have lost over 100 pounds. What would be your one advice to start that journey for someone out there listening? Because that is an amazing – I've lost like 65. I can't even imagine getting to 100. Like, I'm out of breath thinking about it.
Well, that's pretty good, Mike, yourself, 60, 65 pounds. I would say intermittent fasting was really a help to me, and you could still eat fairly decent. You don't have to eat just chicken and broccoli every meal. And honestly, Mike, just going out and doing something. You don't have to run for hours on end. Go out, start taking a walk every day. Leave your phone inside. Take 30 minutes out of your day and go do that, and you'll be good.
All right, there you go.
Because once you start walking, Mike, you start being able to walk further. Then you can start running and jogging. That's what I do.
There's our 5 today. Jeff Nadeau was kind enough to jump in this last hour for Broads. Broads will be back tomorrow. Nadeau, that was fun.
It was very enjoyable.
It was very fast.
It was. It seemed like it was 10, 20 minutes.
Right? It's just like, boom, it was over.
I'm disappointed it's over already. I would do this for 3 or 4 more hours if I could.
Hey, you never know. Maybe we'll have something else next week or something.
That would be great.
Back tomorrow. Broads is back tomorrow. His final day is on Friday, so we'll be saying goodbye to Broads on Friday's show. He had a little family thing today, but he'll be back tomorrow. Thanks to Jeff. Josh Henning produced the show. He's coming up with Game Night next. He's got Dave Weinberg and Kevin Durso live from the Wells Fargo Center with a preview of the Flyers and the Rangers, which you can hear tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.
Sign up now for this year's $1 Million Bracket Challenge.